Hello and welcome to the We Teacher Summit. Woo! Oh my gosh, I am so excited to be here. Welcome to all of you. Yes, we are excited. It's early where I am, but guess what? This Teacher Summit woke me up this morning and it said hello, because it is an exciting day because we're going to elevate the voice of the teacher. I am Dr. Jacqueline Sanderlin, and I have spent over 30 years of my career serving in the education industry. And I don't see it as an industry. I see it as a calling, a way of life that many of you probably also feel the same. Because it's one thing that I know is that it is the empowerment of teachers that has propelled me forward. So on behalf of We Schools and the We Schools programming, we welcome all of you here today. We're going to have an exciting time, and we're going to talk about what it takes to be a good teacher, and not just to be a good teacher, what it takes to be a great teacher. We have some excellent speakers today, and when I think about teachers, I think about the fact that we're like cartographers. You know, we are the ones who really draw out the roadmap for many of our scholars to follow. Those hills, those valleys, those paths that they take to success, you know, those avenues that they take to their next level. We get to be a part of that. And that is so very exciting. So I'm excited, but I'm not here by myself. I'm here with the co-host, Mark Q, who's going to help me, and we're going to work together to make sure that we have an excellent day. How you doing, Mark?
I'm doing awesome, and I love the early morning energy, Jackie. It's going to be an awesome day. And as you heard, my name is Mark Quattrochi, and I'm so happy to be your co-host for the day. I'm so excited for what we have in store for you, and to share a bit about myself. I'm a motivational speaker, a leadership facilitator, but also an educator with experience teaching overseas at international schools in China, as well as South Korea. I've also taught locally in Canada with a wide range of ages. And a fun fact about myself, and what eventually brought me to come work for We, was when I set out on a bicycle journey around the world from China all the way back to Canada to help fundraise for the We movement, during which time I was actually able to build 5 schoolhouses in communities around the world. It was a pretty awesome experience, to say the least, and yes, a ton of cycling. It took me 2 whole years and 35,000 kilometers of cycling through 40 countries. And to put that in miles, that's 23,000 miles of cycling to get all the way back home. And it was my passion for education and my knowledge that young people would have a safe place to go to school that kept me going on those long, wild roads that seemed like I was never going to make it back home sometimes. I'm also a father to a little girl named Amelia. You might hear her in the background today, but I often think about the world she's growing up in and what her education is going to look like in the future. Now it's her that keeps me going and working for that better tomorrow. And now that you know a little bit more about myself and my wonderful co-host, Dr. J, why don't you give us a little deeper dive into what we're all here for today?
Okay, absolutely. Listen, we've got a lot to cover today, and I tell you, I'm excited about it all. But our goal is really simple. You know, actually, our focus today is about empowering teachers and elevating their voices. That is exactly what we're going to do. And so you're going to leave today's session inspired to explore ideas as well as self-improvement, maybe even focus on your goals, reset. You're going to reimagine, you're going to retool some things, but most of all, we're going to bring a smile to your face, guaranteed, because that is exactly why we're here. And listen, there's an old Japanese proverb that says this. Now listen close. Better than 1,000 days of diligent study is 1 day with a great teacher. Listen, a great teacher can change your life. And many of you can think about how a teacher impacted you, changed you, moved you, and also took you to the place where you are now. I know I can remember that, and I know that you can too. But let's step back and be real with each other just for a minute. Schools, teachers, students, classrooms, curriculum, textbooks, all of these things, brick and mortar, virtual classrooms, ever since the start of 2020, The state of the world has changed. It has hit us all. The pandemic, cultural crisis, inequities, a lot of things has just really slowed us down, or even actually stopped entirely. But what we can never stop is cultivating the bright minds of our youth. That is something that we cannot even slow down. That is a piece that we actually have to propel forward. And you as teachers, the most essential services in the world. No matter what the situation looks like, we still have to teach because our scholars are still there waiting for us. You know, your students navigating the new rules of social distancing and physical distancing and being safe, rather, really making sure that we are continuing to teach with those new limits that are involved. You know, it is possible that even with our virtual lessons and how we're competing with phones and technology, you know, we are still stepping up our game and coming into the classroom, whether that is in a virtual experience or whether it's even coming into the actual school. We appreciate all the work that you do because this is new for all of us. We were all thrown into a new normal, and yet we rise. And so we just want to muster up the gratitude today and thank all of you for what you do. Just thank you is not enough, but for all of you teachers out there listening, speaking as a parent, I'm speaking as a teacher, I'm speaking as a principal, I'm speaking as a mom and pop store down the street. Everybody thanks you for what you do because we know it's not easy and we certainly appreciate you. And one way we want to show our gratitude by sharing is by sharing our We Teachers program with all of you right now. Now, perhaps you haven't even touched base with We in a while. You know, everybody's been slowed down and touched a bit. And we've been working on our program, though, behind closed doors to actually take our stuff up another notch. You know, we've had a chance to revamp and really retool and bring a cutting edge program to bolster your repertoire as a teacher. And so the program is designed, listen now, to be adaptable and accessible with customized resources with virtual learning opportunities just for you. And We Teachers members also gain access to our online teacher community, connecting with like minds and working with other individuals and your peers. So make sure you check out the We Teachers Hub, which is actually available absolutely free, and it only takes a minute to join. And we just want to take this moment because this would not happen without the support and the work and the hard work behind the scenes of our greatest partner in this effort, which is Walgreens. And so we want to thank our Walgreens friends and partnerships who have really stepped up and has helped us empower teachers, not just in one place or Canada or in North America, but actually all around the world. And so we just want to kind of give a big hand and thank you to our Walgreens partners, really helping us with this We Teachers program. Now, we want you to know that while professional development is always an important step for a teacher, training and professional learning, collaboration is so important. And you've probably got some questions about, you know, interacting with your students through service learning. And how are we going to do this, you know, in an online space? Well, Mark, I'd like for you now, if you could shed some light on how we're going to really transition and move into this new climate of a virtual activities through We.
Of course, Dr. J. Yeah, absolutely. And that's a really good question. What does service learning and doing good together look like when so many classes can't come together in person? So if the beach cleanups and bake sales that are effective learning opportunities are no longer at our disposal, what can we actually do? So throughout today's summit, you're going to find a lot of answers to those questions. And many times that answer is going to include our revamped and retooled We Schools program. As always, We Schools continues to include in curriculum and programming that teachers can use for the better and interact and learn with their students. But a lot of work has been done to make those tools relevant given the current times. I know things have changed a lot, especially over the last couple months, 6 months to a year. So for in-person teaching, virtual teaching, even for those doing a little bit of both, WeSchools is here to help. So this program wouldn't be possible without our great partners who have given so much time and energy to support WeSchools programming. Honestly, they've empowered thousands of youth through the program for many years, and we want to extend our deepest gratitude to them for that. So again, thank you so much to all of our incredible partners. And now that we know a little bit more about what is going on in the world, we now more than ever is a new and challenging time for teachers, not only because of the pandemic we're facing together, but because of the challenging social issues that are sparking conversations among all of us. Today, we're going to take a look at how we can evolve your classroom and teaching style to ensure that a just, informative, and equal education format for all of your students, including trauma-informed teaching and classrooms, are available. We hope that you'll take some key elements you hear from today into your classrooms to speak about these issues practically, but also effectively. But we don't want you to wrap up the day feeling just super overloaded with knowledge or with a heavy heart either. In fact, it's one of our core beliefs that learning can always be both educational and entertaining. And so that's what today is all about. And that goes for teaching the teachers as well. We want to have an awesome time together today. So because today we're going to be hearing about some uplifting ways that you can interact with your students, hear from some amazing top experts that we're going to have on the calls today in the educational field, and maybe even we will squeeze in a few dance breaks. We'll see if we have enough time, but what better way to kick the school year off than with a teacher summit to learn and have fun with our peers and build a strong community of teachers who have each other's backs. That's so important. And just to take a moment, I want to give a huge shout out to our friends at Microsoft who support all of WE's digital programming. We honestly wouldn't be able to bring us all here together if it wasn't for them. And we want to thank them for continuing to put events together like this through our amazing programs, as well as our upcoming global classrooms. We couldn't do it without them. Thank you so much, Microsoft. All right, Dr. J, I don't know about you, but I'm just about ready to get started.
I am too, Mark, especially when you just said dance moves. It's like that took me to another level. Okay. But before we dance and before we go there, I want to introduce our first guest speaker. And what a better way to kick things off really than to hear from an outstanding example of a teacher who is doing great things and has done great things. Our first guest is a retired teacher from Avondale Elementary School in Birmingham, Alabama, an inner city school which made up of students from all walks of life. In fact, she has made such an impact on students at her school that she is the current WeSchools Teacher of the Year. Her work is proof that when teachers make an effort to be more than an educator, but a mentor and a guide to their students, every student can and will succeed. And that's one of the greatest lessons a teacher can impart to their students. And it doesn't come from a textbook. It doesn't even come from other avenues around them, but it comes from the heart. And that is to be kind, caring, and an empathetic person to all people. Listen, everyone, I am so excited and I'd love to hear from her. You're going to be inspired when you hear her voice. And I just want us all to please welcome from Birmingham, Alabama, Arlinda Davis.
Hello, my most beautiful and amazing teachers. I am Arlinda Davis, a retired teacher from Birmingham, Alabama. I am a WE recipient of the WE Teacher Award, as well as the current 2020 Alabama Sanford Harmony Award winner. I am so excited today to see you and to introduce you to the WE family. Let me tell you a little bit about my journey to becoming part of the WE family, and we are a family. When I was younger, I struggled in school. Not because I didn't know the answers, but because I had no voice. I had no voice because of who I was and what I looked like. But one day, an amazing teacher who gave me my voice said to me, Did you know you're a genius? That marked the beginning of my educational career. He helped turn the trauma that I was suffering into triumph, and I continued with success. Yes, I dealt with trauma, but because of him teaching me resilience and him teaching me to know my worth and making me feel and believe that I was a genius, I believe that. I graduated from high school at 16. I was in college, and by the end of my freshman year, I had already done a year and a half of college. But then tragedy struck again. I was a victim of sexual assault, and I thought it was the end of my world. But the teachers and the people in my life who taught me resilience, who taught me how to turn my tragedy into triumph, helped me overcome that. And I became a teacher. And because of what I had gone through, and because of awesome teachers like yourself, I found a way to use my tragedy, to use my trauma to help teach other children. I remember that I hurt myself one day and I didn't realize it till much later on. And when I touched that spot, I was like, ouch, did I hurt myself? You see, I had put that hurt in the back of my mind when it happened. But later on, I felt the hurt and the ouch came out. And that's exactly how children respond. That's what trauma is for children. When they're hurt and things happen in their lives, they put it in the back of their minds and they try to continue. And then one day, it might be during your reading class or your math class, they holler out, ouch. Ouch comes out. It may be that they have behavior problems. Ouch. It might be that they're tired and sleepy or hungry and they can't concentrate. Ouch. And so we tend to, as teachers, want to help that ouch. And we might want to put a band-aid on that ouch by a hug or a kind word. But we need to start finding out the why behind the ouch. What happened to cause you to hurt? Last year, I had a former student of mine who nominated me for the We Teacher grant. And I was so excited when I got the grant. And I wasn't excited just because of the money that I received, but I was so excited because I realized there were these modules attached. And when I looked at the module, I was like, wow, this makes a connection to what I always believed, what I was doing. And when I looked at the trauma-informed classroom and I looked at the scenarios and I looked at everything that was offering, I was like, oh, this is it. This is the door. This is the platform that I want to be able to use to teach teachers all over the world about how to deal with trauma. You see, where I teach, I have children from all walks of life. And I found out trauma has no zip code. It has no socioeconomic phase. Trauma can come in all forms, whether it's a child that's hungry, or a child that's tired, a child who's coming to school and they're being bullied, or a child's parents who are suffering and having problems at home, and that child's having to deal with that. I had a story when I first began teaching. I had a child, and her name, we'll call her V. And V was the oldest of 5 children, and she was only 6. And when V came to me, V could not communicate. She couldn't speak. And she would bark. And I wondered what was going on. And that began my journey into her why. I found out that V would be left home with her siblings, sometimes weeks at a time, with her siblings and a small dog. No adult communication, no adult emotional connection. And so I did be like if you had a newborn baby, and I would rock her and I would sing to her and I would read to her and I would try to establish a relationship with her. And one day in the spring, we had been studying about plants and water cycle and rain, and the librarian came in and V was pulling her by her finger, and the librarian had tears coming down her face, and she told me, she said, V came in and told me my teacher needs books. You see, just a week earlier, I walked V and I sang the song, Rain is Falling Down, Rain is Falling Down. And V went to the librarian and she said, Rain is falling down, rain is falling down. My teacher needs books on rain. And that was a defining moment for me because I saw that she was not defined by her trauma, that she was not a child who had to become part of her trauma, but she could also change that and change it into triumph. And that is what she did. And when I saw the WE module and the scenarios, I realized, teachers, you are amazing. You do this every day. This is not extra work. This is something where you make the connection to what you are already doing. And that is, you show children that they matter. You have so much worth in the educational system. You have so much worth in the world. You are the reason why we have doctors and lawyers and psychiatrists. Then I thought about how awesome job that you are doing, even in the time we're facing now with COVID, and you and your resilience and how you are being the change that you seek. You are taking the things and you are handling like a champ. And when I thought about the modules that we were trained in, I thought about how important it was for everyone to start understanding the why behind trauma. Asking the question, how? What happened? What can I do to help you? It reminds me of another story, and we'll call her Z. Z was a beautiful girl, and she was very smart. But when her mom would come visit, V would start to stutter. And I started noticing, and I started asking myself the why. Why is it when mom comes in to talk that she clams up and she stutters? And one day Z came in and she slept and slept, and when she finally woke up, I asked her, was she okay? And this started to be a common occurrence. Well, I found out the why. Z was having to take care of her two younger siblings when mom had visitors. And if the younger siblings made any noise, Z suffered the repercussions of that. Well, I started wondering, why is mom being so harsh, and why is Z getting upset when mom is around? I found out Z's mom was an alcoholic. Well, see, with a trauma-informed classroom, your why doesn't stop with the child. Your why goes into the family. Your why says what's going on and how. How can I help this family? What is it out there that I could do? Well, I found out that the reason why mom was an alcoholic, mom had her first child at 10. And she believed if she could be a mom at 10, that Z could be a mom at 6 to her siblings. The alcoholism, that was a Band-Aid for her hurt. Her being so overly aggressive with her child, that was her ouch. That was her cry for help. And because of our collaboration and me building a relationship with that family, we got Z help and we got mom help. And in turn, my classroom was an even better and safer place to be for her, as well as for me. I felt the safety of, I can do this job. And teachers, let me tell you, you are the most resilient people that I know, because you have to take on the hurt. You have to take on the ups and the downs and the highs and the low of 20 or more little people's lives. And yet you do it. And so to you, I applaud you and I say thank you. And when I look at it, I say, welcome to the family, because we are stronger together. We believe in applauding you for your efforts, and they do that through the grant. They're getting ready to open up the 2021 cycle for the We Teacher Awards, and this is the time where they would like to say thank you. Thank you for being awesome. Thank you for making a difference in the lives of our children. It was such a wonderful award for me. I was able to do so many things in my classroom that I normally would do on my own, just like teachers do. We normally like to pay for things on our own. But it was such a wonderful way to say to me that I matter. I have worth, and the lives of my children matter, and that we all are in this together. I used my grant to buy pillows and stuffed animals, and I created what I call my comfy, cozy corner. And it allowed my students that if they were tired, they could come in, they could rest for a minute, and when they were ready, I could teach them. I was able to keep my refrigerator stocked with snacks, because if they came in hungry, I could feed them. And I'm a firm believer in you cannot teach them until you reach them. And the grant I received from We, it helped me do just that. Please, please, let everyone know that what you do matters, and let someone recognize you for all you do. Go to we.org and apply for the 2021 teacher grant. Not only that, there are so many resources available to you on the We Hub. When I say we are a family, I mean we are a family. We is here to help you. We is here to say thank you for the job that you've done. And today, we are family. And I could not be prouder to say that I'm a teacher, knowing that you, you, and you are making a difference in a child's life. Thank you.
Wow, that was really special. And I just want to thank you, Arlinda, for sharing your time with us today. And I think that we can all take something back to our own classrooms and our own communities from your inspiring words and experiences. Personally, I learned so much from Arlinda's words. That idea of ouch and the hurt that many students are carrying around with them really honestly stuck with me. I think back on some of my own students that I had who I felt needed that extra support. And you know what? The extra support really needed to start at home if I was ever going to reach them in a more effective way in the classroom. And I also agree that being an educator is more than just the title of teacher, but it is a mentor, it is a therapist, it is a coach, it's so many things. It is that interaction that brings us all closer together. And you know what? Speaking of interaction, I want you all to connect with us and with each other. So in the chat, as the summit continues, share something you learned from, for example, from Arlinda's keynote, and spark the conversation from there. Let's get things going in the chat so we can hear more from each other and get connected. Because the best way to strengthen our community is to share our experiences and empower each other. And that starts with conversation. It starts with saying hello to one another. And so I also believe that standout educators such as Arlinda always deserve recognition and celebration. And we know many of you are with us today. So please apply to the We Teacher Award or nominate a deserving teacher that you know. It's an opportunity to receive $500 and $500 Walgreens gift card to buy the supplies that you need to support and empower students in your own classrooms. All you have to do is visit weteachers.org to apply, so make sure you head over there sometime during the break later on. Now, on to our next guest. She is the Chief of Staff and Vice President of Finance at Mental Health America, where she has worked for over a decade. She's also uniquely equipped to deal with virtual learning and programming through experience, developing and launching Mental Health America's online screening program in 2014. The program has since collected nearly 5 million mental health screens. Wow, that's incredible, and is changing the lives for the better. Please welcome Jessica Kennedy, but first, check out this quick video to learn more about We Teachers.
What if teachers were equipped with the tools and resources to address critical social issues like bullying? What if teachers could inspire social action from their students? What if teachers had the modules to keep that action going into the future? Because at the end of the day, it all comes back to the students. With the support of the We Teachers program, today's teachers are equipped to talk to students about the issues they're facing. Today's teachers see the potential in their students to take everyday lessons to extraordinary heights. We teachers have the resources to improve their skills, lifting their students even higher. We teachers aren't only committed to their students' growth, but committed to their own. Thanks to We Teachers and Walgreens, today's teachers are ready for anything. Better teachers, better students.
Hi all, Jessica here from Mental Health America, filming for We Schools, We Teachers program, made possible by Walgreens. Teachers are some of the most important and influential people in the lives of children and youth. Did you know that almost 9 in 10 American adults reported having a teacher who had a significant positive impact on their lives? Of course you did. You're one of the people making an impact every day. You're a mentor. You're a role model. You encourage kids to follow their dreams. You boost their self-esteem and confidence. And many of you help kids and teens through difficult times, all while teaching them history so they can avoid the mistakes of the past, teaching math so they can learn how to Venmo their friends their share of the bill, teaching music so they can be the next Grimes, and teaching science so they can build us a home on Mars. Oh, and you're doing this while you're keeping them safe, teaching them critical social skills, helping them pass standardized tests and get into college, technical school, or the next phase of their lives. No small feat. That's why We Schools, We Teachers, and Mental Health America are partnering together to create a toolkit to support teachers who are supporting students in difficult times. Together, we're embracing a trauma-informed classroom. We're covering trauma, mental health and well-being, bullying, homelessness and poverty, violence, and diversity and inclusion. So what exactly is trauma? Trauma is the response we have to experiencing or witnessing an event or a series of events that threatens our lives, our safety, and our personal integrity. A traumatic event can be something that happens once. Like a car crash is an example of a traumatic event. If you've ever been in one before, you know they're really scary. You may have been afraid you were going to die. But traumatic events can also happen more than once, like in a series of events. So being in an abusive relationship is an example of a series of traumatic events. An abusive partner might call you names, yell at you, or give you the silent treatment. This can make you question your personal integrity, making you feel worthless. And you may be afraid that yelling can become throwing things or physical violence. Every time your partner yells at you is pretty crappy, right? But that series of events creates ongoing trauma. Some traumatic events are very severe, even though they happen once, like a car crash, a plane crash, or surviving an earthquake or a shooting. But even things that may seem small to someone, like a fender bender, which seems like it's less dangerous than a plane crash, can cause a long-term traumatic response in an individual. And to some of us, some ongoing events may feel like they're less severe. Like we may think that, Emotional neglect, where a parent doesn't really act like a parent, is not as bad as physical abuse. But what matters is the long-term effect that trauma has on an individual. In this case, students in your classroom. There are many different types of trauma that a child or teen in your classroom might have experienced growing up. Let's go over a few. A big basis for what I'm about to go over is a study called the Adverse Childhood Experience Study, which looked at 3 sections of trauma that might cause issues in a child or teen. First category is abuse. It includes physical abuse, verbal or emotional abuse, and sexual abuse. Physical abuse includes biting, slapping, punching, kicking, and strangling. It also includes threatening a child with a weapon, throwing things like TVs or shoes at children, or even forcibly restraining children. For example, by standing in a doorway and refusing to let a scared kid leave a room. Abusers sometimes try to cover their tracks, so bruises, cuts, and scrapes may be hard to find. Verbal or emotional abuse includes name-calling, saying things like, "You're an idiot," telling a child they're worthless, excessive guilt-tripping, or blaming a child for problems like, "This never would have happened if you hadn't been born." Emotional abuse can also include gaslighting, where an abuser pretends something didn't happen to make a child question reality. Like a parent may ground a child severely for a small infraction, like not putting away dishes, then act like they don't remember that the child was grounded in the first place. Sexual abuse is another type of abuse. It can include unwanted kissing or touching. Sexual abuse doesn't always involve physical touch. It can also include taking sexual photos of children, over-sexualizing how a child dresses, or engaging in sexual behavior in front of children. The next category is neglect. It includes both physical and emotional neglect. Neglect is when a caregiver, usually a parent, fails to provide a child with basic things that the child needs. With physical neglect, parents may not provide a safe house, a clean bed, adequate food, access to water or bathrooms, clothing appropriate for the weather, and healthcare. Other examples include failing to provide supervision, leaving kids home alone in front of TVs, forcing kids to sleep on the floor, or not taking a sick kid to a doctor. Emotional neglect occurs when a parent doesn't provide the child with the emotional support and love that kids need to thrive. A parent who is emotionally neglecting a child may never hold them or hug them, and may ignore and dismiss their problems. The third category identified in the study was household challenges. These are things that didn't happen directly to a child, but they are experienced by a child in the household. Experiencing these household challenges puts a child at risk for health problems. These were things like experiencing domestic violence in the household, so watching one parent physically abuse another parent, having a parent who was in jail or prison. There are also other traumatic events that children can experience. Accidents and disasters, like with car crashes or earthquakes, can cause trauma. So can household challenges affecting other family members besides parents. Kids may experience trauma because of bullying, or as they get older, they may have abusive or unhealthy romantic relationships. Community violence and world events can also be traumatic to kids. Imagine being a transgender student and having to watch debates about bathroom bills, or being the child of an immigrant who worries that their parents or family might be deported or worse. So who is going to be affected by trauma? The thing about trauma is that it can affect, anybody. When they did the ACEs study, they realized that each adverse childhood experience a child was exposed to, like abuse, neglect, or a household issue, the more likely it was that that child would have issues later in life. But even people who didn't experience any of those issues still might experience a trauma in a war zone or as a result of a violent incident or a natural disaster. Even two people who experience the same trauma, like the same car crash, can have totally different responses. One person may be a little rattled, and the other person may develop post-traumatic stress disorder, which is a diagnosable mental health condition. We don't know for sure exactly who is going to respond how, but we do know that everyone has both risk and protective factors. Risk factors are things that make someone more likely to respond negatively to trauma. Previous abuse, exposure to violence, low self-esteem, lack of friends, these are all risk factors. Protective factors are things that build resilience, which makes someone more likely to adapt to life stressors, including the effects of trauma. Protective factors might include having attentive parents during the first 3 years of your life, exposure to structure, healthy self-esteem, good school achievement, and having at least one trusted adult in your life, perhaps someone like a teacher. To help reduce the impacts of trauma, we want to try and minimize as many risk factors as possible and encourage as many protective factors as we can. As a teacher, you can minimize risk factors by helping to spot abuse or neglect, identifying kids who are struggling, and creating a safe and inclusive environment in your classroom. You can help build protective factors by teaching social skills and coping mechanisms in the classroom, helping your school district adapt good programs to help kids thrive, and honestly, just being there for a student in need. As a teacher, you can make a big difference in building a trauma-informed classroom. Trauma-informed care is a big deal in the healthcare system right now. At its simplest, being trauma-informed is about how we treat people. So instead of looking at a student who is struggling or acting out and thinking, "What's wrong with you?" in a trauma-informed approach, we look at that student and ask, "What happened to you?" By focusing on trauma or the impact of stress, we can be more compassionate and helpful rather than punitive. One good way to have a trauma-informed approach is to know how to spot warning signs associated with trauma. You're probably familiar with mandated reporter training, which emphasizes how to spot child maltreatment like abuse or neglect. Other signs that something might be wrong and trauma might be a cause are changes in behavior, poor school performance, inattention in the classroom, wanting to avoid home, unexplained illnesses or injuries, poor hygiene and dirty clothes, or sexual behavior that doesn't seem appropriate for someone's age. Once you know what to look for, you can help by providing a pathway for kids to speak up or seek help. You don't have to be a counselor yourself. Hopefully your school or your school system has one you can talk to about these things. But you can establish a trauma-informed environment by embracing the principles of trauma-informed care. Safety, trustworthiness and transparency, peer support, collaboration and mutuality, empowerment, voice and choice, and cultural, historical, and gender issues. You can learn more about these concepts in our toolkit. There are a lot of things you can do to help students feel safe, supported, and empowered. It can be as simple as calling a student by their name, asking them if things are okay and if they seem down, or volunteering to help them have a difficult conversation. You can do things like share trigger warnings before you show a video or assign a reading that might contain material that could upset someone who's impacted by trauma. Here's a few more suggestions to get started. Make sure your class rules are clear to all students and encourage safe and respectful behavior. Check in with students after traumatic events in the news. How are they doing? Teach a breathing exercise, showing students how to take deep breaths from the belly. Teach children to count to bring their physical reactions down, like 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Make sure you call each student by name and make an effort to really get to know them. Ask your students how they can signal that they are having a hard time, whether it's raising a hand or having a code word. Ask your students if it would be helpful to come up with a quiet space in the classroom for when they are having a hard time. Teach your students to use I feel statements to express their feelings. Treat all the other staff at your school with mutual respect in front of your students. Organize group activities and games so students can get to know their peer groups. Explain rule changes to students in an age-appropriate way. Let students know before they're exposed to difficult subject matters like violence in reading or video assignments. What else can you do to build a trauma-informed classroom? We've been focusing a lot on taking care of students and making sure that we're sensitive to trauma. And that's what it's like to be a teacher, right? You have all these wonderful, amazing, bright and talented children and teens to nurture, teach, and care about. And all of these students, well, they're relying on you. So you need to make sure you can take care of yourself as well. Counselors and other people who provide social support to those who've experienced trauma can experience something called vicarious trauma. And burnout is a real thing, especially among teachers. In addition to seeking professional help from a mentor or counselor when you need it, make sure you're engaging in self-care. Here are 10 ways to do this from Mental Health America's Live Your Life Well program. Connect with others. Join a club. Volunteer with a group. Or try out an app like Meetup to get to know people. Stay positive. Journal about a positive future. Or practice gratitude by saying one thing you're grateful for every morning. Get physically active. Exercise can be anything from going to the gym to hiking in a beautiful park to water aerobics, depending on your level of activity. Help others. Volunteer for a charity or call someone you haven't seen in a while and ask if they're okay. Get enough sleep. Okay, easier said than done, but aim for 7 to 9 hours of sleep per night. Create joy and satisfaction. Spend time with someone you love or watch a funny movie. Eat well. Just try and switch out a few weekly snacks for some fruits and veggies to start. Take care of your spirit. If you're part of an organized religion, you can go to services. But if not, you can meditate and connect with nature. Recognize what's going on with you and take action during hard times. Make a to-do list or call a friend when you need support. And get professional help when you need it. It's no easy task to be responsible for so many futures. But thank you for everything you do.
Thank you, Jessica. And thank you, Mental Health America, for partnering with Walgreens and We Teachers to write these incredibly important modules. Let me take a minute to introduce myself. My name is Amber Waverick, and I am a physical and health education teacher. And although I'm not currently teaching in the classroom, I've spent the last 4 years working with We Schools and more recently We Teachers to provide resources and professional learning sessions on service learning and on trauma-informed classrooms. You may have more recently seen me on our We Schools at Home channel over the summer, doing daily virtual lessons. So, I'm here today to talk to you about all of the free resources that the We Teachers program has to offer you, and how you can bring We Teachers into your classroom this year. Let's start with the modules. Now, Jessica introduced you to the Trauma-Informed Classroom module, and we definitely recommend you start there to gain good background knowledge or a foundation in trauma-informed practice. Trauma exists in many forms, and it is common for students to experience it, which greatly impacts their daily lives, especially in the classroom. Taking this into consideration, it is imperative that we educate ourselves on what trauma is, how we can identify trauma, and how to support students, ultimately creating a trauma-informed classroom. Next, there's a robust module on mental well-being. As educators, having students that feel safe and confident to manage their stress, trauma, and mental health concerns also significantly improves their chances of learning and succeeding in school. Most students will likely face some kind of challenge that puts them at risk for mental health concerns during the time they are in school. With mental health and wellness issues on the rise, we need to ensure that when students face these challenges, they have the support needed to help them work through their stressors, biological changes, and trauma. This module will introduce the topic of well-being by providing a comprehensive foundation on the issue. You will also learn about critical statistics, become familiar with terms, and understand the different ways to address mental well-being with students. Next, there's a module on bullying, or anti-bullying rather, where you'll gain a greater understanding of preventative actions, interventions, and policies, along with some activities to do with your students in the classroom or online. The fourth module is all about diversity and inclusion. This module goes into detail about how you can recognize diversity in your classroom and what you can do to ensure your class is an inclusive environment for all of your students. This module will help support you and your classroom by being an ally and creating a safe space where people from diverse backgrounds can share their stories and their perspectives. The next module is on poverty. According to the US Census Bureau, in 2018, an estimated 38.1 million Americans lived in poverty out of a total of 327 million people. That's a poverty rate of nearly 12%. This number does not include people who are homeless, since the census is only sent to households. With the number being this high, chances are that students' lives have been touched by poverty in some way, and many might be experiencing or have experienced poverty themselves. As teachers, it is essential to create a classroom that feels free from outside problems and is a safe space for all students, especially those who might be living in poverty or experiencing other challenging life events. The sixth module is about youth violence. Now, before you begin to take action towards preventing violence in your classroom or online, and supporting students who may be involved in youth violence, it's important to understand the many contexts in which young people may experience violence, as well as its causes and the impact violence can have on young people's lives. And finally, our seventh module, which we could have never even imagined writing at the start of the last academic school year. This module is all about the pandemic and supporting teachers, parents, and caregivers with a pandemic-informed community resource. This resource will help you discuss pandemic-related trauma with youth on a home, classroom, and community level. It will give youth a background into what a pandemic is. It will help you build resiliency at home and at school. And it gives practical and relevant tips for helping youth feel supported. There's also a large activity section on activities for the whole you, mind, body, and soul, to make sure that every part of you is being taken care of and nurtured, while also helping those around you take care of themselves as well. This is a really worthwhile module to dive into, so please take a look. Now, you're probably thinking, wow, these modules are fantastic, and I want them for myself, or my school community, or my parent group. But how do I access them? Well, look no further. I'm going to let you know exactly how you can access them now. And don't forget, they're all free. Okay, let's talk about the We Teachers Hub. If you're really eager to explore this online hub right now, please visit teachershub.we.org to get started. However, if you stick around with me for just a little bit longer, I'm going to walk you through some of the really exciting features of the hub, as well as how to get started and some new additions we're going to have for you in the very near future. Once you land on the Teachers Hub page, you're going to have to create an account, which is in the top right-hand corner. If you've already created an account, then just make sure you're logged in before venturing too far into the site. Again, it's free to sign up and access all of the resources on this site. Once you're signed up and logged in, click on the Resources tab at the top of the page if you're on a computer or laptop. If you're on a cell phone or tablet, you should be able to find a menu button at the top of your screen that will pop out all of these options. Under the Resources tab, you'll be able to find all 7 of the resources that I spoke about at the beginning of this session. They're all downloadable and printable, so you can bring them with you to school, and so you can also access them offline. You'll also see many other resources on a variety of different topics, like digital citizenship, food sustainability, and healthy food for healthy bodies, to name a few. So go exploring. There's ready-made lessons and something there for everyone, from kindergarten all the way to grade 12. The next thing I want to talk about is the Courses tab back at the top of the page. We're really excited to unveil these new courses for you to start this school year and to start or enhance your journey into trauma-informed practice. These courses follow along with the modules and are here to help you gain a deeper dive into the We Teachers resources. The courses are very interactive with videos and activities to help strengthen your understanding of the issues and support you in better supporting your students, whether it's in the classroom or online this year. We're also really excited to let you know that after completing each learning path or course, you will receive a badge, much like the Microsoft Educator Community badges, that you can proudly display on your signature. We also want to let you know that these courses are in the process of becoming accredited by the International Association of Continuing Education and Training. Once they are, you will receive CEUs, or Continuing Education Units, for completing the courses, and a certificate once you've taken all of the trauma-informed practice courses to say that you are a trauma-informed practice educator. Exciting, right? So, to wrap things up, here are the takeaways from me. Join the We Teachers Hub to gain access to the free resources from We Teachers and to help you bring a more trauma-informed lens into your classroom. Explore the Trauma-Informed Practices course to strengthen your knowledge and understanding of these prevalent issues and to learn how to apply these practices in your own classroom setting, both in person and online. Stay tuned for We Teachers course accreditation so you can become a trauma-informed certified teacher. And one last thing that I forgot to mention. We Teachers is coming out with one more brand new module this year on anti-racism, so please stay tuned for that. I wanted to take a few minutes to answer some frequently asked questions about the We Teachers program. Question 1. Are these modules for myself as a teacher or school administrator, or are they for my students? The answer is, the We Teachers modules that I talked about today are for teachers, school staff, even parents, to strengthen your knowledge and teaching practice, and to give you some more tools for your toolbox. Tools that will hopefully help you understand and gain perspective on some of the issues that students are facing, and equip you with the skills to address these issues. Keep an eye out in the very near future for a student activity guide that pairs with each of these modules, so that students can work through these issues as well, and also learn how to support themselves and their peers. Question 2. Do I have to complete each module, and is there a specific order to complete them in? The answer is no, you don't have to complete each module. They are independent of each other, although there are some common threads throughout. We do, however, recommend completing or reading the Trauma-Informed Classroom course or module first, as that will help grow your understanding and build a foundation for the rest of the modules. Question 3. Can I share these resources, and can they support others in the school community? For example, custodial staff, administrators, and parents. And the answer is absolutely. Please share them with your staff in your school and your school district. They're here to support all school staff and personnel, and can definitely be sent to parents and caregivers to support students and children at home, especially during online schooling. Thanks for joining me today, and thank you for becoming a We Teacher.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Jessica and Amber, for joining us for today's Teacher Summit. I hope you all gained as much insight as I did. Definitely a lot of takeaways there. And let's keep interacting in that chat. Share those thoughts, those learnings and ideas, or even something that you're excited about. Now, we still have a lot more inspiring content ahead of us, but I want to slow down for a moment and just reset. Everybody watching along, don't forget to apply for the We Teachers Award or nominate a deserving teacher that you know. It's an opportunity to receive a Walgreens $500 gift card to buy the supplies that you need to support and empower students. All you have to do is visit weteachers.org to apply. Right now, though, I want everybody to get up out of your seats and have a quick break. Grab a coffee, a healthy snack, do some stretches, or you can fill out the We Teachers Award nomination. The link will be posted in the chat during the break. Let's meet back here in about 5 minutes. Count them, 5 minutes, and ready to continue our Teacher Summit. All right, I'll see you soon.
Okay, oh, I hope you had an opportunity to take a break. But you know what? I'm not done. I love to dance. And I just want to take a few more minutes, maybe just a couple of minutes, to just do a stretch break. And there is no better way than to like do that with some music. So you know what? If you're in your chair, find a place. If you want to stand up, let's take a stretch break before our next speaker comes. Come on. And let's do that to some music. You know, I think I hear it. Okay. Find a place. Come on, everybody. This is the We Teacher Summit. So let me see you. Take a moment, and you can do what I do. Do your own thing. Up. Okay, you guys, I'm taking you there. Hey, listen, we're educators. And this is the kind of passion and excitement and synergy that you gotta bring to the classroom. You know that. You know the kids love it. You deserve it. You've been working hard all year. Uh-oh, that froze on me. Okay, everybody, listen, that was exciting. I mean, I can keep going on now because I can show you some of my moves now. Okay? All right, you guys. Listen, this was so listen, that is what this is all about. Okay? It is about passion, energy, excitement, and bringing that to the classroom. And I know that you have had, at least I hope most of you have had, an exciting time thus far, but we still have more to go. And so I'm excited at this time. First of all, let me calm down. Let me calm down because a little dancing goes a long way. Okay. And one of the things I remember in being a teacher is that my scholars, and I always call them scholars, right? Scholars, not students. When you speak into their life, you bring them up. And I used to dance with them as a principal and even as a teacher. I would never start a class. I would never start the day without, and it was just exciting times. So all of that is necessary, I think, to kind of get us all going. And so I hope I was able to lead you through that stretch break. You might see some lagging in the technology. That's just part of life. Don't worry about it. Listen, we keep moving. We rolling with the punches. We are teachers. We're educators, okay? And I am excited. So what we're going to do is now we're going to have another great speaker. I am more than excited to introduce him because he is someone who is really, I call an attraction. He is an internationally recognized teacher and champion of youth empowerment. At the age of 19, at the tender age of 19, he began his career as a mathematics teacher in the Rockwood School District after graduating magna cum laude with a Bachelor of Science. After receiving a Doctorate of Philosophy, he continued to excel in a career field with accolades. In December 2010, he became the youngest and first African-American superintendent CEO of Ferguson Florissant School District at age 33, and a leader for Harvard's Pathways to Prosperity. And under his leadership, 3 Jennings senior classes achieved 100% graduation, career, and college placement among the enrolled seniors. Honestly, these are just some of the highlights of a teacher and mentor who has quite literally empowered thousands of young people to achieve their greatest potential, kickstarting their futures with the belief that they can achieve anything. Will you please help me recognize, honor, and revere and welcome Dr. Art McCoy? And he's cool too. Okay, we might have had a glitch because we can't hear Dr. McCoy. So we are working on that now, and he's going to come back to us because he's got the coolest shades on. I haven't seen those shades before. All I know is that is off the chain. When you can get superintendent to show up with shades, you know it's going to another level. So he's going to come back to us, and we're going to work on that because he's got a word for us and he's got a message, because I got to tell you, someone who is not just actually at his desk working in the office. I have seen him marching with peaceful protests, encouraging his youth to speak up, elevating the voices of his teachers, being a voice in the community, working with the civic and faith-based organizations. He is a champion of change. And so I am excited about to hear what he's going to say. I know you will. So we're going to come back in a few minutes. And when we come back, we're going to hear the voice of Dr. Art McCoy.
To my dear sister, Dr. J, it's so beautiful to see you. And to my WE family, thank you for allowing me in your life for 15 minutes. And we are going to make the most of it. I want to say that technical error was actually on purpose on my part, because it's in the anticipation of an event that is so pregnant with the power for change. And it's in the anticipation that we have some great expectations that lead to greatness in our walk. And so that's what I know each of you have. You have greatness in you. Actually, that's why I'm wearing these shades. It's not just because I'm so cool, but it's because literally if I take it off, see, there's greatness right in front of you. There's greatness actually inside of you. And it's so bright that our eyes can't even really fully comprehend it or see it. And so I wear these shades in honor of you because your greatness precedes you as teachers. If you never knew that you were essential, hopefully during COVID, right now, you see that society cannot function without you as well. Hopefully during COVID, you see that you are essential. You may not feel like it. You may not even believe it sometimes, but there is greatness in you, and your greatness is essential for society. So many times we get paralyzed by the difficulties that's in front of us, even like that lack of audio. That's a small example, or like the challenges in our life right now with COVID-19, or with many other things that's repercussions of multiple epidemics on top of this pandemic. But I want to remind you, my lovely educators, brothers and sisters, don't let the fact that you can't change everything stop you or keep you from doing anything. So often, time and time again, in my life, I've turned tragedy into triumph. And it ended up triumphant because we have greatness in us, the ability to turn tragedy into triumph. I want to share with you my screen, and we're going to do this because I haven't seen it yet, but I want you to see this. I want you to see the voices and some spoken word of students. And so hopefully you still hear me. I'm going to share with you this first poem by a student. It's called Hard Times. Grandma just died. There's no other family nearby. Feeling like Godzilla's bride, because every 2 hours, one of us aspires from an act of violence, and now even more than that during COVID. So I'm feeling empty inside. There's no understanding these hard times. It doesn't even help to get high. Go to school? I can't. Go to church? Why? Don't deny that even if I could, it wouldn't help. There's too much pain. There's too much pride. Call it fate, but hate helps me sometimes just get by. And to my surprise, a new feeling has visited my mind. When I'm alone late at night, it seems justified. It seems suffocating, a suffocating feeling inside. It says, I'm your savior. No. God? No. Suicide? Yes, suicide. Another student voice that's so real today, because we know that suicides are at all-time high. That's why students need you, even during COVID, even virtually. You are so essential. Here's another student voice. This one I seared in my heart. It's called Who Can I Turn To? And I'm gonna stop even sharing my screen so you can see me as I say this to you. Who can I turn to? I'm a person lost in the world. I don't know where to turn. I'm a person wanting to achieve at anything I do. I want to be treated like I exist. I want to be seen for more than the outer me. I want to be seen for the person placed inside of me. But I feel like I'm all alone in the world. I feel like there's no one or nowhere to run to when I feel like it's the end of me. Sometimes life for me will never go right. As much as I try, it will just never go right. So what should I do if the problems I face won't come up from this deep, dark place inside of me? Who can I turn to if I can't even turn to the person who gave life to me? Then who can I turn to? Now, I share those two student voice poems with you because you're teachers, you're educators, and you love students. And I know that those two expressions resonate in your heart. And in both of those cases, the first individual did not commit suicide thanks to the intervention of someone who was an educator that I happen to be, and I happen to enjoy not just being proud of that child overcoming, but that child being another help today for someone else. And the second poem was from a girl who felt the same way. And today she's a nurse, helping many other people, as well as helping cops through domestic violence situations with families. But we turned tragedy into triumph with those students. And I'll show you other pictures as to how, because the bottom line is, don't let the feeling of everything going on overwhelm you and stop you from doing anything. That's who you are, because that's who we are. We must reframe our fears. See, I'm not a worrier, I'm a warrior. And before I reframed fear to be false evidence appearing real. But today that's not enough. That's not accurate enough, true enough, real enough. Today we must reframe fear to mean face everything and rise. I want you to think that and say that with me. Face everything and rise. We have to utilize the tools and the techniques that we teachers, we well-being is giving us through We Charity, so that we can reframe the trauma, so that we can have well-being. See, I focused on two poems from students that said suicide because here's the fact. The three most important dates in a person's life are their birth date, their death date, and the day they find their purpose. Wearing it on I wear it with me. Purpose walks with me. It's right here on my lapel. Again, the three most important dates are your birth date, and I have a birthday of a loved one coming up very soon. It's a big one. Also, our death date. We put one on this end, birth date, death date. I just had a staff member I went to the funeral of. And purpose. Purpose is the dash in between. Purpose is the passion that you have. Purpose, if you don't know your purpose, and many of you do know it, you should be dashing towards your purpose. It's the dash in between your birth date and your death date. Dash toward your purpose. Dash towards some action. But if you don't know your purpose, even in COVID, when the world seems to be going upside down, then dash towards your passion. Do something. See, that's why I love We. We is not a think tank. We is a do tank. We is an action tank that makes us, the body of We, the We family, the teachers, we the people, it makes us a powerful action and movement right now. And We, the organization, has been dedicated towards facing everything and rising and helping you to do so. So now I urge you, I challenge you to find your purpose and passion and dash towards it, because you can. See, Jennings School District was the only school district that opened back up in person in St. Louis County or St. Louis City to serve as students, because our students needed us in person. But we had to be lifelong learners seriously, and we have over a quarter of our staff as contact tracers. Secondly, we got competent. We became confident. So contact tracing for competence, and then a belief in ourselves and a love for our children to become confident. And then we became community educators, making sure the community knew how to stay safe. And we have students right now in school, but also students at home. So if you're in a situation where you don't have students in school, you can still do something. You can still engage with them by phone, by online, by meeting together for a physically distanced lunch or gathering or peace circle to talk about the trauma, the pain, and the content. But here is the rule. The rule is this: as educators, you know this, but I want to say it. Maslow's hierarchy of need comes before Bloom's taxonomy. Maslow's before Bloom. To really illustrate that well, I'm going to show you again, because that's a lot of content. We got just a little bit of time. So with that content, I want you to know Maslow's comes before Bloom. What does that mean? The psychological, the physiological, you have to be there for them by phone any way you can, but be there for yourself, because you can't lead on empty. Have the safety needs met. So stay away if you can't be safe today, but give love and belonging. Still create community even from afar. Get together and do service learning projects like we have. We've given out voter registration tracts. We've given out census forms. We've given over 2 million pounds of food. And that builds esteem and self-actualization, knowing who you are. And that's because Bloom comes second to Maslow's. Maslow's before Bloom. As a district, we've had 2 homeless shelters, 2 grocery store food hubs, 2 health-based centers that give all healthcare. We've given computers, connectivity with hotspots, caring adults, champions for children, workforce development, remote learning abilities and skills. That's why we still have 100% graduation rate for 4 years and going. That's why we still have people helping. These pictures are pre-COVID, but it's showing you our clinics. It's showing you our homeless home, our Hope House. We don't even call it that. It's a Taj Mahal for kids. Our peace and therapeutic comfort spaces in every room and in every school, one in every school for adults and one for every child in the school. Gardening, which we are still doing. Grocery giveaways, as I said, that students lead. Painting for art therapy with business professionals and students. Real work in colleges and in pharmacy. I actually have students doing the COVID testing using the RNA method, which isn't even approved by the regulation yet of the government, but they're doing it because they're learning about the ins and outs. When others talk about building a wall, we built the wall. Our kids are ready, equipped, but it took service. While others are about to vote, we have mock voting going on with students. And I'll digress, but I want to emphasize that We Schools gives you the tools, the resources to do these service learning projects, to find that support for your passion, to meet that purpose. We Teachers helps you to be well. And I'm not just a warrior, I'm a warrior, but not only am I a warrior, I'm an honorary Maasai warrior, thanks to the We Schools global initiatives that allow our students to connect with people far away. But the point is, get in where you fit in. See, there's one difference between illness and wellness, and that is transforming it from I to we. When you change that I in illness to a we, it becomes wellness. And so I love Mental Health America because they give you steps to doing that. Stay positive, stay connected with others, help others, get enough sleep, get physically active, eat well, have joy in your life, take care of your spirit, be resilient. See, you can't lead on empty. And so with that, that's pictures of us during COVID, having students come through school. Here are articles from media that show that we have a fourth of our staff as contact tracers. We're doing what we can. We're doing what we need for our children. Here's pictures of them protesting during COVID, marching on the streets because they're saying their life matters and they are learning democracy. There's so much more that I could share, but I won't. I will end and leave you with the fact that while you have so many feet on the streets in protests and in other things, you have to find your calling, your passion, your purpose, and do it. Because we can't settle for small change like coins. We must demand big bills like legislation, like dollars, and big action. And as I close, I will say this. When you and me, and when an individual becomes suddenly conscious of the tremendous power lying latent inside of you, then from a puzzled situation and puzzled self, and a contemplation of just knowing half of yourself, you and I can rise to a powerful assertion of ourselves and of some consciousness that forms might to allow good to be released upon this world with endless possibilities, enough to make men and women pause. Thank you for your time, your treasure, and your talent, and continue to take action today as a mentor, as a learner, being well, being a part of the We family, loving others and helping students, and loving yourself. Thank you.
Oh my goodness. Thank you so much, Dr. Art McCoy. I mean, I could have continued listening to you just share your golden tidbits and knowledge and wisdom. I mean, I am so empowered after hearing you. I mean, just the things you said, you cannot lead on empty. And thank you for reminding us that Maslow's hierarchy of need comes before Bloom's taxonomy. And just reminding us again that it is our work, our obligation to really empower each other and raise the voices of our scholars, to dash toward our purpose. Oh my gosh. Okay, listen, that was inspiring. I know you all enjoyed hearing from Dr. Art McCoy. He has such inspiring words, and more than words, he is a man of action. And you can see through the pictures and all of the things that he shared, those were real. You know, you can't make that kind of stuff up. This is the real thing happening. 100% graduation rate. That is enough to just make anybody just draw a tear, because things are happening in the lives of teachers and educators, all of us together. And this is what today is all about. It is about hearing those stories, those real events that has impacted us, move us, those iron sharpening relationships that are here today to say that we matter. Teachers, you matter. And on that note, you know, it's such a high note right now. And it's such a perfect segue as, you know, we look at earlier, you know, in the day that when we began, we took a high level overview of how We Schools gives you the tools as well as the resources as an educator to interact and empower your students on a whole new level. And I hope that alone, listening to every speaker from the keynote to Mental Health America and to other individuals who are pouring in and seeing the pictures of the impact of We, when you embrace it, as Dr. McCoy said, you know, taking out the I and putting in the we, things begin to change dramatically. And now we have the opportunity and the honor to hear from the founder of We, whose entire vision was based on empowering young people. That was the intention of the work. The intention of We was based on empowering young people. And that same intention drives this work to this. And so in lieu of a formal introduction, I'm going to let Craig Kielburger, of We, speak for himself and share with you the power We Schools programming. But I want to say that to me, a person who has been able to do so much from the heart as a child, started this as a child, kids speaking to kids and creating the change and what it is today. I don't consider Craig as just a role model. We see them every day. They're on television. They're in books. They're in magazines. They're on the silver screen. But guess what? He's bigger than a role model. To me and to many others, he is a real model. And they come very far and few in between. At this time, I welcome and I honor, and I ask you to help me to do so, welcome and honor Mr. Craig Kielburger.
Hi, my name is Craig Kielburger. I had the pleasure of growing up with two incredible parents, both whom were teachers inside and outside the classroom. It was a teacher who inspired me in 7th grade to start an organization along with some friends. And that's how I have the pleasure to introduce myself to you, incredible teachers across America and around the world. Also known as the co-founder of the WE organization. And part of our work across the United States is provide service-based learning educational resources. Well, I'm going to share a little bit more for those of you who may not be as familiar with our organization. WE Charity started in 1995. At the time I was 12 years old. And getting ready for school one morning, I read a story about a young child slave in Pakistan. He was 12 when he was killed. The similarities in our ages got me so angry that I brought this story then to my 7th grade teacher, Mr. Federagoni was his name. And I'll never forget how he didn't dismiss that moment. He didn't say, no, we got to focus on our next standardized test prep, or say that we're running too late in classes. No, instead he realized that this was an amazing learning opportunity. And he helped to turn the entire classroom upside down. We studied slavery in social science. We talked as a class about geography. We looked at it through a mathematical lens and talked about all of the different issues connected. School became more than just memorizing for a test. It became an opportunity to create a positive impact in the world. Well, now 25 years later, we help build that framework into educational resources in partnership with incredible teachers like yourselves. Now, we know it's been a really tough time. COVID-19 has transformed how we learn, but we also have to look at not only how we learn, but what we learn to continue to innovate through the platform, but also the content. WE Schools uses a service-based learning framework so that students can still develop all the core educational skill sets, but do so in service to others and learning about core social causes. Let me use an example about one of the WE Schools resources. For example, we've teamed up with the College Board to create AP with WE Service. So for all the AP teachers out there, there are courses like AP Computer Science. We do this in partnership with Microsoft, where students can learn their coding by coding for nonprofits. What an awesome way to not just learn the core skill, but to immediately see its application in a real-world context. Or another example, we have courses through the AP framework in art. And again, through AP with WE Service, they learn about key social causes, for example, raising awareness on mental health issues, helping to create a safe space conversation, to push the limits in schools around stigma, to have these conversations that art can break through in such powerful ways. For example, through the AP with WE Service program, students not only receive a recognition, but also on their AP transcript, so that that college or university knows that the teacher signed off on the service-based learning aspect of that framework. Now, AP with WE Service is just one of many resources that we provide free in partnership with incredible school districts and teachers like yourself. We have service learning campaigns. Students can get involved in a whole slew of actions, helping on countless causes, from protecting the environment to helping to tackle homelessness in their own communities. We have lesson plans, educational curriculum and framework, so that teachers can make a whole collection of different social issues come alive. All of this is accessible through we.org and through the WE Schools program. So I would invite you as an educator to please continue to use these great resources to inspire and engage your students. And you might be familiar with our WE Days, where over the years, over 1.5 million students have earned their way to stadium celebrations of service to hear from inspirational individuals, to to reward them like a graduation, but for doing social good. Those We Day videos continue online at we.org. Thank you so much for being part of the We Network. As I shared at the beginning, not only did that one 7th grade teacher change my life 25 years ago when we first launched the organization, but I'm also proud to be the son of 2 incredible teachers. My father taught high school French, my mother children with special needs in elementary school, and both of them taught inside and outside the classroom. When I look at the lessons that they've taught me over a lifetime, the most powerful ones go far beyond just reading, writing, and arithmetic. I look at the lessons around compassion, empathy, service, active citizenship. And I believe we need those lessons both inside and outside the classroom more than ever before. And so to all the teachers out there, all the quiet heroes, whether you're at home or in the classrooms, no matter how you're consuming and learning this in our unique world that we find ourselves, thank you for continuing to be the superheroes and taking care of young people throughout this journey. And on behalf of the We organization, we're honored and proud to continue to work with you to inspire, to engage, and educate the next generation of young changemakers.
Thank you so much, Craig, for sharing your story and providing us with some much needed inspiration during this time. My name is Carrie Stewart, and I've been a part of We Schools for the past 9 years. And now I'm excited to take a deep dive into the resources, tools, and opportunities coming your way this school year. As always, the goal of all of our resources is to support you and your in your service learning journeys. We're so proud of the history We Schools has in supporting teachers and students in making a difference, but we've never faced a school year quite like this before. And just like you as teachers, we've needed to make some changes and we've needed to adapt. Whether you're in virtual teaching, at an in-person classroom, or still unsure about what the future teaching experience might look like for you, we're here to support. And we're going to help you make service learning happen in a safe, responsible, and meaningful way. While we've made some changes regarding the what and the how of our program, the why remains the same. Rooted in social and emotional learning and positive youth development, our program offerings support teachers and empower young people to be their strongest selves and gain the critical skills to be future ready and compassionate citizens. And this year, we will continue to provide these resources and tools as part of both the We Teachers and We Schools programs. First, let me explain how both these programs work with one another, giving you a complete tool set to empower your students. As a teacher, you have completely free access to both of these programs and the tools available. First up, We Teachers, a no-cost program for teachers that provides free resources and training to support you in addressing critical social issues with your class. As a part of this program, teachers become part of a powerful network working towards excellence in education and enriching students' lives. That includes access to educational resources, awards and grants to celebrate your work, and professional development opportunities. Taking part in the We Teachers program is making a commitment to your students through a commitment to self-improvement. It's your opportunity to hone your craft, connect with other educators, and share your expertise with one another. The second part of the programming is, of course, We Schools. These are service learning educational resources for teachers like you to utilize with your students and bring positive change in themselves and the world. Through these service learning opportunities, We Schools increases students' academic engagement, civic engagement, workplace readiness, and future readiness skills, and increases their well-being. We Schools is a practical program that you can bring to your students, giving them first-hand experience in service activities to achieve these outcomes. In unison, the We Teachers and We Schools program will help you engage in the self-development to continue to grow as a teacher and give you the resources to build up your students in ways they never expected. But we haven't been building these programs in a vacuum. Before the school year started, we reached out to teachers like many of you for feedback on the issues and causes that are most relevant to you and your students. And we used that feedback to adapt a calendar to address each of these core issues throughout the school year. During each issue theme, we will highlight and share relevant lesson plans, campaign materials, virtual programs, professional development, and grant opportunities to support you and your students. So if you take a look at this chart, this is the We Schools framework for the 2020-2021 school year and the major issue themes we will address and provide resources on. Let me first draw your attention to the foundational module, which has great tools that provide educators with a sequenced approach to develop supportive instructional practices, build positive relationships, and create safe and caring environments that foster student engagement and learning. At the heart of everything we do remains well-being. The well-being of both educators and students is essential in the success of a classroom, especially during a year where so many health, social, and environmental challenges continue to come our way, and you'll see this theme come alive throughout the We Schools program. But at the core of We Schools are the causes and issues that are always examined through both a local and a global perspective. Based on the feedback we've heard from many of you, we've reviewed our resources with a critical lens to better support you in navigating how to implement these resources with your students in a blended learning environment. The first theme we will cover this year is education. In this theme, we'll cover topics including literacy, STEM, and access to education for students around the world. Social vulnerability is the next core theme. In this theme, students will explore issues such as hunger, homelessness, poverty, and violence. Through volunteerism and action planning, your students will learn the root causes as to why these issues exist and how we can have a direct and positive effect on them. We'll then turn our focus to equity and human rights, with current tools on topics such as accessibility, discrimination, and diversity and inclusion. We're continuously working with subject matter experts to expand our resources to support you in addressing these crucial issues. Up next is a look at environmental issues such as climate change, food security, waste reduction, and sustainability. This topic is so important to discuss on both local and global scales, how actions at home can have a ripple effect on the health of our entire planet. And lastly, another core topic in the We Schools year is health and well-being. Resources in this theme address mental health, bullying and cyberbullying, nutrition, physical health, and healthy relationships. As we navigate a new school reality, both physical and mental health maintenance will look very different for you and your students. You will receive access to resources on each theme through our monthly newsletter and by visiting we.org/weschools. So continue to check there to receive new updates as additional resources and opportunities become available. We are also so excited to share that we will have 2 incredible virtual events each month, one for you as teachers and one for both you and your students to participate in together, called Global Classroom. These will cover the key issues we just discussed and will be a great addition to the learning already happening with your students. They come with supportive campaigns, lesson packages, and educational tools to enhance student learning in in-person or virtual spaces. You can register today for all of these remaining programs for the 2020 year right now by visiting we.org/weschools. And finally, we also have some incredible awards and grant opportunities thanks to many of our generous partners. It's our goal to ensure you're always supported with the projects you have planned. So also check out these awards and grants at we.org/weschools. We are so incredibly grateful for the support of our partners who help us bring We Schools to life. We Schools is presented by our partners at Microsoft and Unilever and supported by Walgreens and Dow, and we could not do what we do without them and their commitment to supporting teachers and students. Thank you. So that was an extensive look at all we have to offer you for this school year. We know this year looks different for each and every one of you. You're navigating uncharted waters and you are doing such an incredible job to steer the ship. We're so excited and honored to support you and your students through service learning through the entire school year ahead. We sincerely thank you for all that you do. Now I'd love to invite my wonderful colleagues and teachers, Alyssa and Bushra, to share with us some practical examples of how this all can look in your classroom and school community. Thanks. Thanks, Carrie, and thank you everyone for joining us today. We understand that this year has brought on some unprecedented challenges that no one could have expected, but we're so excited to be here to chat through service learning, why it's so important, and how we can support you through service learning through the We Schools program. My name's Alyssa. I'm an educator of just over 10 years now, first working in the classroom with primary students. Then I continued my education and got my master's in curriculum studies, and more recently, working at We, supporting educators just like you and delivering service learning through their classroom and through the school community.
Hi everyone, my name is Bushra. I have been an educator for a bit less than 10 years, but I taught grade 1 and grade 4. I went on to do my master's in education, looking at teaching, culture, and language and how we can impact students. And for the past about 6 years, I have been working with different organizations in developing content, curriculum, resources, policies that can help educators in the classroom and beyond in impacting their students. So we're actually going to get started by sharing a PowerPoint presentation with you that will help us go through our session. Can you see it, Alyssa?
Yep, just go ahead to the next slide, Bushra. Perfect, thank you. Okay, so service learning. Service learning may be unfamiliar to some, but very comfortable for all of you as you've been exposed to learning environments in very different ways, but we wanted to take a deep dive into what exactly service learning is. So service learning is an academic pedagogy that connects the classroom to the community and back again to the classroom. It is always undertaken with the goal of enacting meaningful and helpful contributions to local, regional, national, and global communities. Service learning is defined as a form of experiential education where learning occurs through a cycle of action and reflection as students seek to achieve real objectives for the community, a deeper understanding and skills for themselves, and students tackle real-life problems and issues with their community, but also understand the purpose behind their actions and gain personal skills that contribute to their growth. So it's really just understanding how service learning can create that community to classroom connection and enable students to really become global citizens.
Perfect. Just like Alyssa just said, it isn't just about, it's the experience from your classroom inside to the community and vice versa. But service learning, on the other hand, does not just focus on the acquisition of particular career skills, but rather help students deepen their understanding of course content through experiences in the community and reflection in the classroom. Melissa, you know how important reflection is and how service at the core of service learning is really looking at making students reflect on their actions and their projects and the service that they're encountering. Ideally, service learning is a process of empowerment for students, faculty, and community members alike, as together they are co-learners and co-teachers in creating better communities. One of our favorite, quotes is on the bottom of this slide, as you can see, is that learning is the process whereby knowledge is created through the transformation of experience. So why service learning? Why do we do it? Why are we passionate about it? And why do we love it? But it's for students to see themselves as empowered change makers in the world. They need learning experiences that respond to interests, are both relevant and timely. They spark and nurture curiosity, which is really important to social and emotional well-being. They lead to tangible and timely results. They set them up for success and allow for learning through challenges and obstacles. And they connect to the knowledge, skills, and attitudes that are being taught in the classroom.
Yeah, and it's through all of this engagement and the opportunity to enable students to engage in such a meaningful way that there's proven outcomes to the service learning program and specifically participating in We Schools. Students have shown increased academic achievement, workplace readiness, civic engagement, and improved well-being through participating in our program. And to prove that, we actually used an external measurement and evaluation company called Mission Measurement to assess the impacts of WE's programming. And they did a deep dive or an investigation on how our programming has supported vulnerable youth. And it showed the results that 5.9 times more likely are students able to identify as agents of change. Students are 1.7 times more likely to be sought out by their peers to resolve conflicts, and 2.1 times more likely to speak up and share their opinions in class. So it really is a tool or a vessel to enable self-confidence for students. And not only does service learning have a positive impact on students, but it also has a meaningful impact on educators. Educators who have participated in our program or use service learning to engage their students have mentioned that they had stronger relationships with their students, are more professionally fulfilled, and their colleagues view them as real leaders in their school and the community at large.
So why participating with the We School Service Learning Program, right? That's the core of it. That's why we're all here. It's because we're leading the way in experiential service learning. We want a world where all young people feel empowered to pursue their dreams and reach their full potential. We Schools helps achieve that just by encouraging young people to challenge apathy by awakening their spirit of volunteerism. We're counting on teachers to guide the next generation in becoming the compassionate leaders our world so desperately needs. You know, we heard from Craig Kilberger earlier, we heard from Carrie Stewart, who was explaining the We Schools program, and it's really built on the foundation of allowing young people to take and go further. So We Schools program is our way of supporting educators who share our belief and that passion for student empowerment in service learning. So participating teachers will foster broader academic discussions via the interactive nature of service learning, and through our resources will enable students to learn about local, national, and global issues and become agents of change. Alyssa, this is probably my favorite quote. I know I'm like the quote today, but it's my favorite quote in service learning, which is, "Tell me and I forget, teach me and I may remember, but involve me and I learn."
It is such a powerful quote. It's all about the experience.
Perfect. So this is our theory of change for service learning. This is our belief that meaningful service achieves transformational outcomes on individuals and communities. Through experiential service learning, youth develop the self-identify the skills they need to become change makers, to ultimately shifting society from the me thinking to we acting, right? So you can see that we remove barriers to youth success, we educate and empower youth, we transform youth and communities, which in and itself brings societal change.
Great, so let's dive into our learning framework, because not only are students learning how to be global citizens and showing such great social emotional learning opportunities, but there's also core skills that are highlighted through our learning framework. So the We Schools learning framework is the educational foundation for every resource we provide. You will see this on our campaign guides, our lesson packages, you name it, it's there. And it is really grounded in pedagogical theories of service learning and 21st century learning practices. So as an educator, you can see that the We Learning Framework is a really helpful reference tool to ensure you that your curriculum expectations are met through student engagement with We Schools programming. So if you look really closely at the slide here, you can see that the wheel is the learning framework, at the center are the skills, the yellow are the goals, and the red are the outcomes, which we had addressed earlier. And then you'll see those icons at the bottom. Those are all of the skills that would be shown prevalent on any type of resource that you're looking at. And now let's talk about the foundational module. So this is what we recommend as the first step for engaging with the We Schools program. The purpose of this module is to provide educators with a sequenced approach to develop supportive instructional practices, build positive relationships, and create safe and caring environments that foster student engagement and learning. Because we know that it's so important to empower students by feeling safe and comfortable in any environment that they're in. In our foundational module, there's 4 foundational lessons that use a student-directed approach. This model follows the 4-step process of the We Schools Service Learning Framework. First is investigate and learn. Second is action plan. Third is take action. And fourth is report and celebrate. Really with an emphasis on the report and celebration aspect, because it's important to continue to report and celebrate through all phases of that 4-step framework. It not only provides a base for the We Schools program, but also serves as a catalyst for students to develop and grow. This module is built on social emotional learning and service learning, providing students with the skills to become caring, respectful, and responsible citizens, and the opportunities to apply those skills and values. When students have the foundation and support they need to become active agents of change, really anything is possible.
I couldn't agree more. I think, Alyssa, that as a teacher, having that foundational step of before I do anything, how do I set up my classroom? This is key. That's why I think this module really helps in setting up those caring classrooms. So one of the other aspects that we're mentioning today is the Tech for Good badge program, which is really in the same frame, one of our programs that goes and extends throughout all of our things, just like the foundational module. So the Tech for Good, the purpose that we see for the Tech for Good badge is for students to be empowered with digital resources and skills to create innovative solutions for those in need. Now more than ever are we using technology. You know, Alyssa, during this pandemic, everyone is on technology. We're trying to look at screen time. We're trying to figure that all out. but it's this Tech for Good's badge mission is to look at students and to help support them in using technology for socially conscious actions. So students will become proficient in, the globally recognized EdTech standards, so the ISTE standards that I'll go through in the next slide. But they're really looking at the International Society for Technology and Education and the standards that they have for, global collaborator, digital citizen, computational thinker. How can we impact those standards for students and their engagement? So the Tech for Good really looks at students and their technology use, and for educators, it's really looking at empowering their students to do incredible things, all while equipping them with the skills needed to be future ready. So rethinking traditional methods and applying innovative techniques, recognizing and rewarding students for acquiring important skills in a new way, enhancing our own practice as teachers and experiences in the classroom, and integrating technology into teaching to prepare students for digital collaboration and communication in future careers. And then, as I mentioned, it also meets the ISTE standards, which is the International Society for Technology Education Standards for Educators.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's such a great thing to share, Bushra, because right now it's such an opportune time to use technology for good, considering that our time on the screen has increased so much, and our time and leveraging of technology has also increased a lot over the past 6 to 8 months.
Exactly.
Okay, so now on to the 5 key learning themes. So Bushra, you can actually just skip on to the next one. Perfect, thank you. So as you'll recall, Carrie had shared this earlier today to highlight the key issues and themes that we're going through. And these themes have various service learning initiatives within each of them that highlight critical social issues and world challenges. So what we're now going to do is highlight some of our favorite service learning campaigns within each issue and the supportive resources that come with those campaigns within each bucket. So to preface, we have campaign guides, lesson packages, and a ton of other additional educational resources. But when we say campaigns, we're really talking about how-to guides on taking action. So the first issue theme is education. So the first campaign and initiative we're going to talk about in the education issue bucket is We Are Innovators. And I love We Are Innovators because it's all about inclusivity and sustainable change and sustainable impact. So the idea of We Are Innovators is really to help students understand the importance of innovation. So students learn how developing an innovative mindset and using STEM skills can create an inclusive and sustainable solution that can change the world. So through We Are Innovators, students are really investigating issues around food, plastic waste, protecting nature, conserving energy. Whatever it is, you can be a part of that change, and it can really be truly significant using STEM skills. In addition to the We Are Innovators campaign, we also have classroom lesson packages that are Common Core aligned so that you can implement these in your classroom. And the classroom lesson packages are grade 4 through 12, so you have elementary, middle, and secondary considered, and they really take a deep dive into some of the key issues that We Are Innovators highlights. So it's looking at food waste, inclusive and sustainable innovation, circular economy and nature. Everybody knows you have to reduce, reuse, recycle. So really key there, energy and housing, and then transportation solutions. So here are some examples of ways that you can implement this campaign given the blended learning environment that we're all currently in. So some ideas are listed on the slide. You can read along with me. You can do a virtual tutoring tour with students. So you can pair up with local students, whether it's college to elementary, high school to elementary, middle, it's very flexible. And look at STEM disciplines and think about how you can develop those skills to take action on something really, really important that you're noticing is a need. Students can pair with a sister school. So especially for any private school teachers here, I know a lot of them have brother or sister schools. You can work together to plan on reducing greenhouse gas emissions. So really thinking about how to take that action planning into a virtual space. Or you can create educational displays and post it on social media. Create your own social media pages talking about some of these issues and how we can create sustainable change using technology. So this is a really cool example of how things have been adapted given the current environment. So this group had started to notice that getting out in the community to create sustainable change was a little bit more challenging this year given the context. So what they decided to do is bring awareness around a Girls' Day for STEM. We all know the importance of improving opportunities for women, especially in the science, technology, engineering, and mathematics space. So that's what this is all about. It's driving awareness and inclusivity around STEM-related issues. So this is really cool because this isn't a unique twist. So even though you're not doing exactly what may have been outlined, people take what's there and reinvest and rethink how they could really adapt these resources to fit their specific needs.
I feel like we're going to hear a lot of those today, you know, Alyssa, because people have had to pivot their actions and their service learning ideas and projects essentially. So hopefully we'll share more examples with you so you can see how even during a pandemic, you can still be doing service learning. So the next theme that we're going to be looking at is social vulnerability. And I'm actually going to highlight the We Volunteer Now service learning campaign. It's one of my favorites, but it's volunteering for the good of everyone. You know, it's not just volunteering for yourself, but it's actually really rallying a larger group of volunteers with you and doing an action. Now that seems impossible right now because we can't get too close to each other, but it's about that volunteering is not only a great way to help make the world a better place for everybody to live in it, but it also feels good. It makes it's actually scientifically proven to make one feel better. So this is a campaign about encouraging people to volunteer and motivating others around you to take action, make a difference in your community. So as Alyssa mentioned, every service learning campaign comes with a curriculum that is Common Core aligned for you. And so this one is really, we have it from grade 1 to 12. So really looking at different subject connections from language to Canadian world studies, but also social sciences and the humanities. And we can look at different learning goals from understanding and demonstrating ways to spread awareness, but also researching and allowing students to dig into issues of why their community might need a specific volunteer action. So some examples that we wanted to share with you of action ideas that you can do when we volunteer now in this during this time is one of the examples that we had from students was looking at during COVID-19 is how can you're confined inside, but how can you still be physically active? And to help motivate seniors to keep moving and have fun, students volunteered with creating engaging content. So online content with appropriate activities, stretches, and workouts to do independently, or if they're in a group at a senior home that they can be engaging together. But creating online content is a brilliant way, isn't it, Alyssa, to really change how we can impact and still make a difference in our community. So one of the examples that I actually wanted to share, also it's a bit shifted, but is this really great one is where organizers held a virtual self-care party with local youth that have been struggling with anxiety and stress and abuse. So they created an event to empower youth and provide journaling, positive affirmations, and opportunities to connect with like-minded youth that they otherwise may not know. I don't even know how important that is right now for all of us to have that opportunity to stop and think about ourselves.
Mm-hmm. It really is so powerful, Bushra, and something that I'm seeing more now than ever is like awareness tours, virtual awareness tours. So even if you can't get out directly in the community in the similar context that we would have seen for We Volunteer Now, you can still continue to do good in the virtual world. So it's so powerful. Thank you for sharing that. Okay, so now we're switching themes. So we talked about education. We're now going to be moving into equity and human rights. And the campaign initiative that we want to share with you is We Are One. So We Are One is really awesome. We are so thankful to Microsoft who made this possible for us. This is all about creating an inclusive world by using technology to design accessible tools, services, and experiences. So this is really about thinking about where we can see improvements in our surrounding areas, in our communities, and using technology to solve that. And just like all of the other resources we mentioned, this also comes with Common Core aligned lesson packages. So this is something that you can implement in any environment. You can do it in the classroom, you can do it in the virtual space, online, and everything here outlines your learning goals, the skills developed. So it's really, really powerful. And when you're using technology, you can really do a lot. This is a key initiative right now, especially during this time. So take a look at this one when you get a chance. It's really, really awesome. And then here to highlight some of the new action ideas that we've seen or heard from educators that they're doing is creating web page to educate students about inclusive design. So really looking at how you can use the tools that you have in your hand. So creating web pages in addition to social media. I know that was something that I had said earlier, for another opportunity. Have a discussion with your family around what inclusion means, even thinking about that. What does inclusive design mean? What does it mean to have an inclusive environment, an inclusive space? Even being inclusive in an online community, creating a website or online presentation to showcase your findings after those discussions. So really thinking about inclusive design.
Great. So up next, our theme is the environment. So we're going to be looking at We Go Green, which is our service learning action looking at the environment, sustainable development, which is always really important. So We Go Green, anything is possible, whether it's taking a sustainability pledge to reduce plastic waste, or starting a garden at your school or community or at home now, you have the power to create a greener world for everyone to enjoy. So this is really about the small actions that can become a really big transformation for the world. We all need to know that like every single person makes a difference, right? So in this one, you do receive again, Act Today for a Bright Future, which is the curriculum that we have for it. It's looking at exploring the impact that humans have on the environment and what it means to live sustainably. So I feel like there's so many actions you can do here, Alyssa, about the community, but it's really about yourself as well. You can take pledges for a day, for a week, for even longer, to reduce your shower time, to turn off all the lights, or to walk then drive. So those are all actions to create a more sustainable environment. I thought this fact was really great, is that it takes 450 years for one single-use plastic bottle to decompose. That's 450 years. So all of us together can make a difference, and that's what this is really about. Our last bucket that we're going to highlight and focus is on health and well-being. So in this one, one of a bigger, campaign for me is that we promote respect. So whether with our parents and our family members, our friends, or our classmates, or a significant other, relationships are a really big part of our life. And the bonds we form with others, with other people, are what make us human and help us feel connected and happy. However, when relationships are unhealthy, and it can include things like frequent conflict, pressure, stress, or a lack of trust or respect, it can make things difficult or frustrating. So we promote respect is really truly about building an understanding of the differences between healthy and unhealthy relationships. And it's providing tools to navigate and understand what does that difference look like, and how can we identify unhealthy relationships. So in this, we have a curriculum provided, which is titled Understanding Healthy Relationships, that looks at the importance of developing healthy relationships, recognizing negative consequences, the ability to advocate, and the ability to understand and evaluate. We are also adding a financial literacy lesson plan on this about healthy relationships and the social and emotional development and learning that happens in healthy relationships. So, this is really about taking that time with your family and discussing what are the differences between healthy and unhealthy relationships, looking at your school policies, looking at, creating a blog post and welcoming people to discuss and creating that safe environment. So really looking at inclusivity and raising awareness and understanding amongst yourself and others. So the last thing we want to mention in the health and well-being theme is also our We Wellbeing program. So listen, in this we have actually resources that we're going to have from K to grade 12 high school. So currently we have grades 4 to 6. We have 15 lesson plans in that. We have deeper dives, brain bites. We've developed high school curriculum, which has a foundational module you mentioned, Alyssa, but it's customized to the high school ages. We have healthy communication curriculum, which is really focusing on the communication, mental health literacy, and the We Wellbeing program, Alyssa, is really more about prevention and promotion of well-being. And so it's looking at students and discussing social and emotional development, positive human qualities, mental health literacy, optimal mental health literacy. So those are the pieces that we really focus on here. We have activity cards discussing mental health all the way from grade 1 or K to grade 12, posters, a virtual global classroom. We'll have additional educator resources with virtual professional learning sessions. We also have an amazing We Wellbeing playbook that you can also have access to, which is just tools and tips and resources to look at mental health and well-being.
What I love so much about this resource, or these resources, Bushra, is they're so plug and play and ready to go. And the two key words that stood out in all of that you said is prevention, promotion. So we're all about creating the dialogue and the opportunity to take the actions necessary in those spaces rather than a reactive approach.
You're right, Alyssa, in everything you just said. And I think what's great is for a program like this, it actually wouldn't be possible without the assistance and collaboration of our supporting partners. They make it possible for us to create these resources and such robust and resources. As you can see, this is one program where we have it from K to 12. You know, we're really trying to cover every age that we can. So those were actually all of our buckets that we covered, Alyssa. So do you think do we have some time to take some questions?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so because we actually asked teachers ahead of time what questions they might have regarding, you know, just the day that has gone by and service learning and We Schools. So I have a couple, and I'm going to ask you one first. Okay, Alyssa?
Sure, go for it.
How do you respond to time and capacity with these resources? Do you think it's an issue as a teacher where you can fit it all in?
Oh, I totally hear you. And we do everything we can as we're creating these resources to take that into consideration. So one thing that I said earlier is very plug and play. So you can take these resources and implement them in a curricular context or in an extracurricular or co-curricular context. So if you want to use it as an enhancement, if you want to take pieces of it, it's chunked out so that it's really easy to adapt. We also have the campaign guides, which are really helpful for short implementation with students. And if you want to take things deeper, you can use the curricular lessons, which are Common Core aligned, so you can even use it as a substitute for other units that you've already designed.
So I'm going to take the next one, Alyssa, because it's an easy one. So the question is, how do I access resources, and is there a cost to the program? So my favorite thing, this is a free program, free resources. There is no cost for you to be participating in We Schools or We Teachers. It's all for free. And to access any of the things that we talked about today, please go to we.org/We Schools. Alyssa, is that correct?
Yes, it is.
Okay, perfect.
We.org/We Schools. It'll also be popped in the chat there for you to access. So it's
great.
Easy to navigate.
We'll ask two more questions. So one to Alyssa will be, when do you implement these campaigns or themes? Like, is there a time, Alyssa? Do I need to do it now, whenever you say? What's kind of the structure?
Right now. It's flexible, so there isn't any start or end date. You can implement them whenever you see fit. If there's an organic place that you feel like it can be implemented in the current context of what you're teaching, please go for it. If you feel like it's something that you would like as an enhancement, you can add it there too. A lot of teachers actually come to us and say that they're implementing all different types of campaigns at the same time with their students by posing the option of issue. So they say, here are issues under education, here are issues under social vulnerability. It's up to you to decide which ones you want to take part in and then go from there. And they really leverage the action planning component to still develop the skills and have the students teach each other. So there really isn't a formulaic way to do it from start to end. It's up to you, and you obviously have support from other supportive resources published on the landing page there that Bushra had mentioned to drive you through the programming.
Perfect. And I'll take the last question, which is, what is the major difference between We Teachers and We Schools that we discussed today in the summit? And I think it's such a beautiful difference, and that's why I wanted the question. But it's We Teachers, and Alyssa, please jump in, but We Teachers is really about providing teachers with tools and resources for their own self-growth, their own self-learning, and their own education. Whereas We Schools is providing tools and resources to empower, for teachers to empower students in making a difference and making a change and in learning. So the key difference is really We Teachers is for you as educators that are watching and tuning in today, whereas We Schools is for your students and how to engage them in service learning. Did I cover it?
Absolutely, 100%. I think the biggest difference there that you highlighted is that We Teachers is for the teacher. It still benefits the students because it's equipping them with skills and knowledge and information to bring back to their classroom. But We Schools really facilitated to the teacher, guided to the teacher, but really driven by the students.
Perfect. Alyssa, those are all the questions that I have. If anybody has any more questions, please pop them in chat. We're still around, we're still listening, so we really want to hear anything that you have. Thank you from my side. I've really enjoyed it. The summit is such a great place to learn and to engage. I hope you had a really great day with all the other sessions. And thank you for having us.
Thank you so much, everyone. It's been a pleasure to chat with you all.
Bye.
Amazing. A huge thank you to the We Team All-Stars, Craig Kielberger, Carrie, Bushra, and Alyssa. Thank you so much for joining us today. Such an awesome lineup of talented and well-spoken individuals, and I hope you have some real tangible takeaways for your own classrooms from what you heard here today. Now, for the next segment, I'm super excited for what's up next. Earlier, we discussed the importance of doing good in an unsteady world. How with all of the negative and challenging issues facing us in our day-to-day, our need to create a positive outcome for ourselves and for others remains constant. Right now, I'm going to throw it over to Dr. J and some new guests for an insightful panel discussion that Dr. J had the other day. Enjoy.
Oh, we're so excited to be here today. The name of the game today is all about new and practical ways that we are engaging in safe service. And yes, as important as it is to do good in the world, I've got to stress that it's just as important to do that safely as well. You know, I'm Dr. J, and I'm excited about being here, and I have a fabulous panel of educators as well as students who are going to talk today about the importance of safe service. I mean, let's face it, sometimes I know I feel waking up every morning with another crisis after another. 2020 has been a heavy lift for all of us. Particularly as we look at all of the challenges that we're facing, all the way just to deaths, to COVID-19, and just being able to juggle it all. It's kind of hard to shut all of that off. And we're all feeling the impact of that. And it's not just also in our social feeds that we're all seeing, but it's playing and replaying in our minds and in our various conversations that we're having with everyone that's in our circle. So it's really something that we're all dealing with. I also believe it's our responsibility, especially as teachers and educators during this time, to positively influence our students as leaders to be the wave breakers that can stem the rising tides. You know, one of the things that we do at WE and has always been is that when storms come, we look at the silver lining of it all, how it can impact our youth in a positive way and how we can spin that and how we can also be a light, you know, in the moment of darkness when things seem to be going all terribly. We are figuring out ways how we can be change leaders and service changers in someone else's life for the better. And also how those stories, all those, your stories are that'll be shared today, and the different stories that we hear on the news that are positive, that can inspire us to do good. So what I'd like to do is talk about how we are looking differently, how we are looking differently at all the negativity, and we are actually bringing activism in and volunteerism in and servant leadership in, and how we can just be that light. So right now, I want to ask some questions and hear directly from our teachers and young people here today about the importance and practical ways that we can accomplish safe service, as well as how we can engage in doing good in safe and meaningful ways in our new world environment. So could everybody joining me in this panel please introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about yourself, how long you've been teaching, what subjects you teach. For students, we have a student here today who's going to tell us about how long, how old she is, which grade she's in, and also what have you learned during this pandemic. So we're going to start off with Carlos. How are you doing, Carlos?
I'm doing great, Dr. J. Well, as you mentioned, my name is Carlos Quintero. I am in Houston, Texas, and I started, yeah, exactly, right. I started my career as a college coach in women's basketball at Rice University. I then moved into the educator role in 2010 at Sharpstown High School, where I currently teach AP Spanish and am the athletic coordinator that oversees athletics, continuing my coaching with girls, volleyball, cross country, basketball, and track. One of the things that I've learned, I guess, or that I've seen in this pandemic, and I kind of knew that already, but you know, our kids are very resilient, and through all of this, you know, as you said, everybody's kind of over 2020. What I continue to see is that resilience, that eagerness to continue to to do what they know they're capable of. So one of the things that I've tried to become better at is how do I give them those tools now that I'm away from them? And so I'm still honing that skill, right? Giving them the tools that they need to be successful in helping us cope with what's going on.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. That's really important, that resilience, that being able to bounce back is so critical. And by the way, everybody, you're not seeing double, you're seeing twins here today. And we're going to start off with Alberto, and we have Mario, and love to hear from both of you. I know you're twins, you're probably going to say the same thing at the same time, but I'd rather you just share individually, what have you learned through this pandemic? And also, what are you doing now in your work?
Hello, everyone. First of all, thank you for joining us today in this awesome panel. It is such a pleasure for us to be surrounded by these awesome people and educators that inspire everyone. So thank you for your job every day. My name is Alberto.
And I'm Mario.
And of course, we are twins. And we are in Utah, but as you can tell, we don't have a Utah accent, right? So we are originally from Spain, and we moved here 5 years ago.
We moved here 5 years ago, and we actually teach in a Spanish school. I teach 6th grade.
And I teach 5th grade.
So it means that we basically teach of the classes in Spanish, history, math, of the different, different classes. So we are loving it here in Utah.
I would say that.
There you go.
Yeah. Here we go. So I would say that we've learned a lot during this pandemic. A lot of people just get the negative part of it, but there are a lot of positive things that as an educator and in our personal life as well. So I would say that we already knew about this, but now more than ever, social emotional learning is key in every class. We always say that social emotional learning should be taught in every classroom around the world. And now it's even more important than before. We have students who are struggling. We have students who learn better if they are face-to-face, and they can't be face-to-face, and they are also missing that social part that it is super important.
Yeah, I think that the social interactions are so important, and we realized this during the quarantine where it was so hard, and we just needed that face-to-face time with our friends, with our teachers, with our students. So we need to also it's so important, those social interaction. As our teachers, we need to teach our students now to have those interactions in a healthy way. So be focused on empathy, respect, all those pieces to have these social interactions that are so important in a healthy way.
Yep.
Well, excellent. I love that word, empathy. I think it's a word that's been floating around lately. We're still learning about it, but balancing that. I know I'm also struggling with that as a parent too. And speaking of being a parent and having a child myself, we have a student here, Sidra, who is going to share with us from her perspective. Sidra, how are you? Tell us what grade you're in, and how are you dealing with the pandemic?
Hi, I'm good. Hi, I am Sidra Al-Shamali. I am 12 years old. I am in grade 7, and I'm from Syria. I'm living now in Toronto, Canada. During the pandemic, I learned that we can cope in different ways with different situations, but still be able to raise our voice to the world and still let the world know that we are here. And in the pandemic, I found out new talents I had that I didn't know I had before, and had the time to build onto those talents. And one of them was creating content and writing poems and sharing my thoughts and feelings in a meaningful way. My dad was helping his friend to create video promotion, and so my dad and I created a script for that, and that was very successful. And from there, I found out this talent, and now we are working on a website that can turn my talent into reality. And still, we always have to be thinking of service, even though whatever comes up. And so me and my sister created Elegant Art that helps the Syrian children living in camps and raises their voices and raises awareness of what they are going through of not having enough food and being cold in winter and not having enough medicine. And we used art to draw and show the suffering of the Syrian children, since art is the best way to get us all together as a globe, and since anyone can understand the meaning of the art piece. And we started selling those pictures to raise the money to the Syrian children and see a smile on their face.
How old are you again?
Right.
I'm like, wait a minute. Oh my gosh. You are an inspiration. You know, you really are. I just, what you're going to do in the future is amazing, but look at what you're doing now. From the seat you're in now, the age you're in now, the grade you're in now. I mean, you really have a vision, and I love what you're doing. And I love, thank you for talking about art. I mean, we have to, I've been waiting for the arts to come back into school. It's such a great way to express yourself. And I cannot wait to hear more from you. So you stay right there, because we're going to come back to you. I mean, you can teach us quite a few things. So Carlos, I want to come back to you. And first of all, I just want to first say thank you to everybody for being here, because I know everybody's listening is excited to hear more from you, because you have certainly just shared with us exactly the excitement that you have and what you're learning through this pandemic. And I think it resonates with all of us. So now, Carlos, I'd like to know how service has impacted your students from past to present, like over the past 6 months, when you first incorporated service in your classroom. How has it changed since then?
Well, you know, again, we talk about how, you know, the distance learning has put a kind of a strain, if you will. So we've kind of had to navigate, like, how do we still provide our kids that opportunity, kind of like, you know, like what Cedra was saying, how do we, because these kids still want to be a part of the community and feel engaged and feel like they're making a difference. So that was the key. Several months ago, our theater arts, you know, you mentioned the arts, our theater arts teacher here on our campus, Mr. Morales, is a great advocate and a great partner in service. And we put together some things when the first pandemic first started, where we reached out to kids and said, you know, we can't go out to places, but what can we do? So we did a fundraiser where we raised funds and had basically like frontline, we fed frontline heroes, if you will. So we called it kind of like the Sharpstown Heroes Luncheon. And so, you know, we went around the corner. We have a Memorial Hermann Hospital. So one day, you know, we took lunch to those guys, and then another, we took to the firefighters, we took to our campus police officers. So it's really, you know, I'm going to say this, it's not really my ideas, but it's like listening to these kids, because these guys, you know, like Cedra, just our kids have these great ideas. And so that's kind of, we never had done something like that. So now it's kind of sparked that, that interest of, okay, why are we waiting to honor these frontline heroes when bad things are going on, right? So we're going to build on that. You know, we still haven't figured out, we have a garden that we use here to grow and kind of share with our community. We haven't figured out yet how to get that going, but I'm sure, you know, our kids are hard at work right now to try to figure it out, but we've had to kind of navigate differently. And really, as I mentioned, it's been driven by the kids, which is what you want, because that's it. That's exactly right. The kids, when you give the kids that accountability and when the kids own it, it's much easier. It's much easier, right? Yeah.
Right. And you know, we've been trying to do this for years. Now we're forced to do it, right?
Right. Exactly.
But what's so great is that they are faced with the problem, and now they're becoming problem solvers.
Correct.
Right? And being creative, you know, I'm just interested in all these different takeouts as I'm driving around. All these ways, all these restaurants have great different ways of doing takeout. It's like it caused us to think differently. You know, back to you though, as a teacher, how have you adapted? You know, what changes have you made in the past 6 months, Carlos?
A lot. I've become a
question,
right? There's so much out there. Right. And so to any educator and even students, there's so much out there. So like what I've learned is, you've mentioned this earlier, balance, right? So yeah. In work, how do I balance all these apps? How do I balance all of this, Pear Deck, Edpuzzle, Schoology? So I've learned that sometimes less is more, and try to become an expert at certain things that will engage our kids. The twins mentioned the SEL, right? Social and emotional learning. That is huge, huge. I mean, we start off today.
The word of the year.
That's it. So, we start off with that, and because, as I mentioned also as a coach, that's one of the things that these kids are missing, that face to face, that hello, that smile. So how do you transmit that now, kind of like what we're doing via Zooms, via Teams, via meetings? So that's something that I'm learning, I'm growing, and honing that skill. And every now and then, I think I got it, and then somebody else is like, hey, use this, and I'm like, okay, let's go again. So I think also being optimistic and being fluid, right? Another catchphrase, fluidity, being flexible.
Yes. Say that again. Say that again.
Those are key things that I've learned. I've always known as a coach, but now and even as an educator, but now it's taken even more in the forefront of how do you keep your kids engaged? How do you keep yourself engaged? How do you not burn out? How do you bring these kids? How do you bring everything together so that we come back to some normal?
Right, and whatever that means to people, it has so many definitions now. But thank you very much for sharing that, because what you said was just so incredibly important, particularly as you focused on you being fluid and being willing to learn. I think we all have to be in that position now. We're not arrived. New stuff keeps coming on the scene. So twins, I want to come back to you because I want to ask, first of all, as people who have been working toward PhDs focused on future-ready skills, you must have some excellent insight on where the cross-section of education and service is really headed. What has been, do you think, the biggest change you have had to face in adapting your service learning in the past 6 months?
That is, a long answer, I would say. So we love to talk, so we're gonna try to be fast and not be here for 20 minutes. Okay. So I would say, like, number one would be the students' digital skills, right? Like, sometimes we are very focused on collaboration, communication, like 21st century skills. We are very focused on that, which is great. And so we thought that we had that down, like they know how to collaborate, they know how to communicate, they know how to work towards a goal, to like solve a real world problem. We thought that all of that, we had it down, and then we moved all of that to a online environment, and they just kind of like forgot how to do it, because actually the interactions and the mental process and all of the process that take place in an online environment, they are not the same that they are in a face-to-face environment.
They can look the same, but they have their own characteristics, and that's also important to realize that and we realized that we were not working on those 21st century skills in a virtual environment or online environment in our classes. And if we think about where the world is heading, like pretty much all the interaction that our students are going to have with peers or in their jobs or what, like environments like that are going to be online, pretty much all of them. So we need to keep that in mind and teach our students how to behave and how to solve problems, how to collaborate in a virtual environment. That was kind of...
Go ahead.
Yeah, it was kind of like a tricky tricky thing for us, because when you are, an example could be when you are collaborating face to face, you have a problem, even you are in the same shared document, right? A Word document or whatever. If you have a problem, you just say it, right? Or you just like stand up and go to your friend's desk and then say, hey, dude, what are you doing? We need to do this other thing or whatever. But when they're at home, they can't do that. They can't just go to their friend's house. So how do they solve that? Via chat, in a meeting, they have problems, technology problems, all of those things make the frustration level just increased, so the communication is not as fluent as it could be in face-to-face. That's
number one.
Challenge, yeah.
Well,
number two.
Well, you did. You answered a lot of it, particularly around technology, because it is transforming us, as we've just heard from Carlos as well. How do you see that also impacting teaching in itself as a teacher in the next 6 months, for example? How do you see technology transforming what we do there?
Yeah, I think it's changing a lot, right? Mm-hmm. So if we look at education, it's the only industry, if we look at education as an industry, it hasn't had a revolution before this. So all the industry has had a huge revolution where everything changed completely, and it looks like a new world, a new environment to work in, right? So the education, we didn't have this before, and this is the first time we needed a whole pandemic to realize that, right? But it was
yeah, I know, right?
That we are changing completely how we do things, right?
Yeah.
So I think that also, as Mario was mentioning before, we need to kind of pick those important things that happened during the pandemic. And one of them was the change in education, realizing that things that we were doing before are not going to work in tomorrow's world. Because our job actually is to prepare students.
Oh, are you so, okay, you kind of froze for a second. Go ahead.
Yeah, our job is to kind of prepare students for their future, right? And how are we going to get students ready for the future if the industries that we want to send our students to are way ahead than education? So it should be the opposite. We should be ahead of the game, ahead of everyone. And by the time they graduate from our classes, they will be ready to go to those jobs and perform well.
Wow, that is so. Yeah, sure. Go ahead, Carlos. Would you like to add to that?
That kind of leads me to something we've been hearing here amongst our administration and educators. The other thing we tell our kids and everybody, we're not going to go backwards. This is not going away. So even though when we go back into the building, the mortar, the brick, the square, technology and everything we're doing, the twins were saying, we got to continue to develop that and continue to grow that, because it's going to be part of education. So that's a great point. I tell kids and teachers, when we go back in the classroom, we can't forget what we were doing. We got to build on that.
Right. Nothing, everything has changed, right? Yep. So even when we're going to go back the same. Go ahead.
Yeah. Even the companies right now, a lot of companies are not coming back to the facilities they used to have. They're all right, this is working, we're not coming back. We're spending money in, renting a facility, a huge building that it's not needed. We just don't need it anymore. So even those companies are realizing right now that maybe the online work, it works, So we're sending our students to that real world where they're going to do all of their interactions online, not all of them, as most of them. So they need to be ready.
You know what? Absolutely. The overhead, everything is gone now. And so you're really learning to communicate in a different way. And I think you hit it on the head, Mario, as well, that we have to prepare them for that by being ahead of that. So we were so far behind, but it looks like we're moving and forging ahead. So on that topic, I imagine it might be a little daunting as we begin to think about that and how we're going to begin to integrate that in the work we do. And I want us to begin to think about the future a little bit more as I prepare to ask you some questions on how we're going to make that turn. But before that, up next, I cannot wait to speak with Youth TBD. I am so excited about that. Youth TBD. I've always believed that young people can teach the teachers, just like Carlos said, if we listen, if we're there, if we allow them and give them that platform. So I'm so happy that you've decided to join us today. So tell me, from the perspective of you and your peers, why do you think it's important to engage in service learning right now?
I think, in my opinion, service learning is a very important thing to be able to turn the negative to the positive and make a big impact in our world, and to be able to share topics you are passionate about, and to be able to convince others about things you would like to change to the better, and share your thoughts in a way that inspire others. And yeah.
Well, how do you plan on, thank you, but how do you plan on doing that, Sidra? How do you plan on inspiring other young people like yourself to do good?
I feel like inspiring them is showing them what I have gone through, what I have done that inspired them. Like, I want to do the same thing. I can do it. I have the power to make things possible for myself, and go for it.
Hey, I got the power. You do have the power. Right, Carlos? Right? She's got the
That's
power.
it. No.
She's got the power, and you've embraced that power, and I believe that's going to certainly resonate with other young people who might think they're too young to do anything. I think young is where things are at right now, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Definitely.
Yeah, you're the only young person that could probably say to that. So with that being said, finally, I'd love to hear your answer on this one, because most of the time, the best advice an adult can give, it can receive, by the way, I'm sorry, is usually from a young person, and from their perspective. If you could give, Sidra, one piece of advice to adults, to all of the old people on the line, okay? Everybody watching, what would you say, because we want to hear, and be honest, it's okay, you're not going to hurt us. Give us one piece of advice right now. What would you say? What would it be for us?
To listen to y'all, because they can have different opinions and different perspectives on things, and they can bring things up that you haven't heard of, and bring up topics you would like, you are passionate about in the future after you've heard of that. And keep your spirit up, and always think of the bright side.
Okay, thank you. That is awesome. Beautifully said. And I promise you, I'm going to carry that along with me as I remember that as a mother of a son who's 14. I'm going to remember to listen more, because you all really have something to say. So now I want to open up some questions to the entire group, and get your take on some other pertinent questions that are out there. For the educators on the panel, given everything on your plate right now, on every teacher's plate, which is a lot, why do you think it's still important to make service a priority? Anyone who'd like to begin with that? Why is that important right now?
Well,
we can go ahead.
Yeah, we can. Yeah. So I think right now people is looking for happiness, everywhere, because all of us are struggling, these are very hard times. So I think just the importance of just make people smile, during these hard times, I think that's priceless, and even when everyone loves making other people smile. So
it makes you happy as well, right?
So if we are talking about social emotional learning and how we can do that with our students, I think it's a great way to make our students realize that emotions are important, that emotions shouldn't be a taboo, right? That person needs help, just go there, just help that person, and they will they will appreciate it, and that will make our students realize that, all right, it is important, emotions matters,
Emotions matter, and serving people makes you happy, and that's what it is. And we, as Mario was saying, and we need more happiness in this world at this point. Less hate, more happiness, more love.
Yeah, and I would say as well that in these times, I mean, like we've thought about this like since a long time ago, and we were the crazy ones. Now we're not that crazy because people are starting to realize that a school should be less about the school stuff and more about emotions and about social emotional learning, right? So it should be about like right now we are in a time that it is more important how your students are feeling that day, just how you are teaching science, so focusing on service learning is great because you are focusing on emotions as well.
Right. Carlos?
Well, I mean, by definition, right, service is helping or doing work for someone.
Right.
And what better way of continuing that and showing these kids that, and I think Cedra alluded to this earlier, then showing them that no matter where they are, in this case at home, they can still provide service and still impact the world, even if they think they play but a small part in it. So I think that's what, as an educator, we strive for every day. And how do we convince from the second, third, fourth grader to the well-versed 12-year-old to the high school college kid that we must continue to serve in the best, provide service in the best that we can, because every little bit of it will create a wave of change and awesomeness, right?
Yes, absolutely. And what would you say? But it's just like what you did, doing something for the firefighters. Just those are small things. Those are big things. And it's nice to be at the root of the smile or the reason for the smile. So Cedra, what's one thing? Give us an example. Give us one example that someone could do right now. What could they do? Maybe they can replicate something you did.
During the pandemic, they can encourage frontline workers and still who are our heroes and who are in the front helping us and protecting us during this time. And we can help elderly people get their groceries and support them because we are all one and we are always beside each other and will always be here for each other.
Oh my goodness, it sounds like the old values coming back. That's right. Let an old person get in front of you. I'm speaking for the old people in the room. Okay, what about my educators? Give me one, you're working in a virtual world now. You're talking with students online. Give me a tip or a trick for other educators. How can we better engage our students in this new virtual environment? Twins, you want to give us something? I see Carlos thinking.
Right, we're like, there's to speak first again, so we were waiting just, if someone talked, but well, I mean, as we said, we love to talk, so we'll go ahead, yeah.
Okay, give me one tip or trick for an educator.
Okay, I think it would be like something like you don't need to create this big project, like small details can make also an impact, like encourage your kids to find someone who's struggling with the remote learning, so do some tutoring with that student, like helping those students that are struggling, or also maybe some elder people cannot go out to do groceries, so you can help that people and buy the groceries for him and bring it back to the house.
So I would say that this is our advice in general, just keep it simple. As Carlos was saying, there are out there 1,000 apps, just keep it simple. So it's the same with service learning. You don't have to, as Alberto said, create these huge projects, that takes months, which we used to do, but we realize that right now they don't have to be that big or that huge, that long. As Alberto was saying, the small details would just make the day of a person. Just a note to the firefighters. We, for example, had a hurricane here in Utah. Well, kind of not hurricane because we have ocean, but kind of winds, and it destroyed trees and roofs and all of that. So we just we wrote some notes to the first responders, thank you so much for helping us, thank you for coming to our house, and those small details doesn't have to be huge.
They matter.
Right, and you can have your students to do that. They can engage in that. That's just a way for them to also be more engaged. Carlos, what's one thing you're going to do to stay motivated and also motivate your scholars?
Well, like they mentioned, connections, right? fostering connection. So one of the things that we're looking at, before we would be able to walk over to the elementary school or the middle school. But now we've got this platform where, how do we connect with these kids? In our district, we have a platform where we can connect with everybody. So we're trying to figure out, how can I get like my basketball girls to talk to the young second, third grade girls over at a school that before we probably never have been able to go to. So I think connecting and showing from the young to the old that we're in it together, we're struggling together, but we're going to overcome it together.
Wow. Well, listen, there's no better way to end than that. And I just want to say thank you for mentioning those words that we can remember. I want to thank all of you for being on the panel and sharing from your perspective, from your seat, from your position, from your age, exactly how you feel that we can engage better and also in a safe way. And I just want to say I'm more motivated, you know, after hearing from all of you. And I know those who have been listening to the summit are also motivated, ready to get back, ready to put into place some of the strategies and examples that you have shared from your stories. And I just want to say thank you, thank you, thank you for giving up your time, your talent, your energy. Listen, you're out there on the front lines. You're doing it from your heart. We appreciate you, Cedra, for representing youth everywhere. And I think it can't be better said, really, than Carlos just mentioned, and really all of you played a piece in that we're better together, all right? So everybody, listen, stay safe, have a wonderful rest of the year, keep looking at the silver lining. Instead of the glass being half empty, you know, it's half full. Listen, let's start looking at this in a positive light. Thank you, everybody. Have a great rest of the day.
Thank you. We'll see you guys.
Bye.
Wow. Was that a great way to end this, the entire summit? I don't know. Hearing from Cedra and all those wonderful speakers, what do you think, Mark?
It was incredible, and honestly, so many great words of inspiration from just different realms of understanding and experience with education. It was so great to see, and I'm glad that you were able to lead that discussion.
You know, it did. It was, thank you. I even just, you know, while I was sitting there and hearing from such a young person and from Cedra speak so boldly about, you know, and giving us some advice that we need to listen. You know, they got something to say, you know, and our educators, I think, learned a whole piece. You know, the world has changed and we've got to change with it. And but I think it sets up a good problem.
I absolutely agree. And again, as you said, a great way to end the summit today. And on that note, I just want to thank all the guests who joined us today. Hearing from so many different perspectives, as we were just talking about, shows us the power of our teacher community. We have so much to offer, and we want to empower each other even further. And of course, as always, make sure you head over to we.org/WeSchools to learn more. Of course, we also want to give a huge shout out and thank you to Walgreens for making today possible and for always being such huge supporters of teachers through the We Teachers program. And of course, thank you to our friends at Microsoft who support all of WE's digital programming, and to all of our partners who make We Schools possible. Thank you as well to the incredible co-host today, Dr. J, for being a dream co-host, and it was such an honor and a pleasure to be on the call and at today's Teacher Summit with you.
Thank you so much, Mark, and thanks to all of you who tuned in today and took some of your Saturday to really not only hear about what's going on in education, but honor your colleagues, honor your brothers and sisters in the same struggle. As a We Teacher ambassador myself, this was inspiring and impactful for me. It helps me to rethink and reflect on what's most important. And yes, you know, this year was challenging, and possibly more challenges will come. But what we need to remember as teachers, because that's exactly who we are, we face challenges head on, and we do it for the right intentions, for the benefit of our students. And so I just want to thank all of you for being a teacher today. It wasn't something that you applied for a job, but it was a calling that you answered. And we're so glad that you did. Okay, everybody, be safe. Have a wonderful rest of the year. and thank you for being here.